I was left at the altar when my fiancée ran off with my brother. 2 years later, she asked for my help, claiming she now saw the toxicity of my family. 2 years ago, I stood at the altar, ashamed and heartbroken. My fiancée ditched me an hour before the wedding and took off with my brother. I never saw it coming, or perhaps I overlooked the warning signs because I adored her. We had been together for 5 years, and I assumed we were happy. However, looking back, it is evident that I was unaware of many things. My family never treated me as a priority. My parents always favored my brother. He was the golden child, attractive, wealthy, and the type of guy everyone gravitated toward. I was the quieter one, always being compared to him, making me feel like I didn't measure up. Growing up, I was always asked why I couldn't be more like my brother. Or your brother did it, why can't you? I expected things to change as we got older, but they didn't. If anything, things grew worse. My fiancée had everything I wanted in a partner: intelligent, attractive, and determined. However, she had a selfish side. It wasn't clear at first. It manifested itself in little ways, such as insisting on always getting her way or never apologizing when she wounded my feelings. I dismissed it because I loved her and believed we were creating a life together. I never expected her to betray me the way she did. The wedding was meant to be the best day of my life. Everything was ready: the venue, the food, and the guests. I awoke nervous yet delighted, knowing that I would soon begin a new chapter with the lady I loved. Then, 1 hour before the ceremony, she called me. Her voice was calm, almost frigid, when she told me she couldn't do it. She stopped loving me. Then she revealed the true bombshell. She had been dating someone else. That person was my brother. She didn't even appear guilty about it. She stated she didn't want to hurt me, but she felt compelled to follow her heart. I didn't even have time to digest what she said before hanging up. My parents, who had already arrived at the event, knew. My brother had told them earlier in the morning. Instead of supporting me, they tried to keep things calm to avoid humiliating themselves. When I addressed them, they defended her. They said things like, "Maybe it's for the best, and you don't want to marry someone who doesn't love you." My mother even had the arrogance to advise that I be happy for them. My father was no better. He simply stood there and ordered me to keep it together. It wasn't until later that I discovered my parents' involvement in all of this. My brother had always been interested in her, and they seemed to think she was too good for me. They decided she would be a better fit for him. They had been urging her to select him for months, even offering her financial support if she left me for him. I had no clue my family could be that deceptive. I walked out of the venue that day without looking back. I left everything behind, including my family, friends, and hometown. I couldn't stand being near any of them. I went to another state and started again. I got a job, a little apartment, and spent the next 2 years repairing my life. At first, it was difficult. I knew no one, and the loneliness was overwhelming. But as time passed, I discovered serenity. I met new people, began treatment, and concentrated on myself for the first time in my life. I did not inform anyone where I was or how to reach me. I didn't want anything to do with those who had deceived me. Then, 2 years later, my ex-fiancée arrived at my home. I had just returned home from work, and when I opened the door, I could scarcely recognize her. She appeared fatigued and worn out, as if she hadn't slept or eaten properly in days. Her once confident and polished manner was gone. She shook and her eyes were red from sobbing. She told me that living with my brother had become a nightmare. He was manipulative, emotionally abusive, and disloyal. Behind closed doors, the beloved golden child turned out to be a monster. They had married shortly after our wedding catastrophe and had a child together, but their relationship had crumbled. My parents, who had previously been so willing to assist her, turned against her when she failed to achieve their expectations. She stated that she felt caged, alone, and terrified. She intended to divorce my brother but was scared of what he may do. He possessed money, contacts, and a vicious streak. She was afraid he would wreck her finances and take their child away. She approached me because she believed I could assist. She asked me to testify in court about how toxic and manipulative my family was. She believed my testimony would boost her case and help her keep custody of her child. I stood there, listening to her, angry. She had made her decisions. She knew exactly what kind of person my brother was, yet she picked him over me. She allowed my family to manipulate her and went away without looking back. And now, after everything she has put me through, she expects me to come to her rescue. I told her no. I did not yell or quarrel, I just said no. I closed the door. It felt nice. But it did not last. A few days later, the texts began. She managed to spread the news about her arrival. Old friends and even mutual acquaintances began reaching out to me. They labeled me selfish, spiteful, and cowardly for refusing to assist a woman in need. Her former maid of honor, the same girl who was meant to support her at our wedding, sent me a lengthy note about how I was not man enough to step up. She claimed I was confirming my family's point, that I was weak and did not deserve my ex in the first place. I couldn't believe their arrogance. These people had departed from my life following the wedding. None of them had spoken up for me back then, but now they believed they had the right to lecture me. I disregarded the majority of it, but it still stung. They had no idea what I had gone through. They didn't care. They simply wanted me to fix a situation that was not mine to fix. Now I'm wondering if I did the proper thing. I owe my ex-fiancée nothing. She created her bed, and now she must lie in it. But there's a youngster involved. An innocent child who didn't pick this situation. Part of me wonders if my refusal to assist will harm him in the long run. At the same time, aiding her would mean reintroducing my family and her drama into my life. And I am not sure I am willing to do it. Reddit, what would you have done in my position? Did I make the right decision, or am I also selfish? Update 1. I honestly didn't anticipate my post to get so viral. To be honest, when I originally started penning things out, I had no idea if anyone would care. But now I'm reading through hundreds of comments, some helpful, some difficult to read, and it's been a lot to comprehend. Thank you to everyone who has offered advice or simply expressed their thoughts. Whether you agree with me or not, I appreciate your support and diverse viewpoints. Writing all of this out has definitely helped me go through a lot of emotions and gain some clarity. But it's also brought out a lot of feelings I thought I'd buried deep down. After posting, I spent the rest of the evening reading the comments. Some individuals brought up points I hadn't considered, such as the possibility that getting engaged in my ex-fiancée's legal difficulties may exacerbate the situation. Not only for me, but for the child as well. Others were more direct, instructing me to keep as far away as possible. She created her bed. Now she may lie in it. Those statements helped me feel better about my first reaction to her turning up at my home. But then there were the ones who mentioned something different. The child. I know I don't owe anything to my ex-fiancée. But hearing so many people say, the child is innocent in all of this, really got to me. Many of you suggested that I try to do something for the kid without being drawn back into the poisonous mess that is my family. And it is what I have been struggling with ever since. I don't want anything to do with her or my brother again. I don't want to be the hero or decent guy in a situation where I'm only setting myself up for further heartbreak. But at the same time, I feel compelled to do something, even if it isn't for her. It's funny though. After reading so many of your comments, I began to wonder if there was anything I could do that wouldn't need me to communicate with her again or get dragged back into the drama. I even pondered phoning a lawyer to see what would happen if I testified or aided in some manner. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. It's still not my responsibility to change anything. And especially not if it involves interacting with my poisonous family again. However, the guilt of knowing that the child is trapped in the center of this chaos persists. Then, like clockwork, my brother reappeared in the image. The email. Yesterday morning, I received an email from him. Yes, my brother, the one I haven't spoken to in 2 years. The last time we did this was when I canceled my wedding. His email was frigid, and simply reading it made my stomach plummet. It was short and to the point. I heard our ex-fiancée asked you for aid. This is a tremendous error. If you become interested, keep out of family matters. You'll regret it. I stared at the message for much too long. I was inclined to respond, but then I thought, why the hell should I? This guy is the one who forced me out of my own life. He was the one who perpetrated all of this manipulation with my ex. And now he believes he can tell me what to do? The arrogance. To be honest, I'm not sure if the word audacity is strong enough to describe how I feel about him. But I did not answer. I could not be bothered. It's almost funny how entitled he still feels. He has no idea what I've been through or what I've had to deal with over the years, and yet he believes he gets to decide how I should handle things. Thanks. That was when the phone rang. An unknown number. And I am sure you can guess who it was. Yep. My mother. After 2 years of silence, she finally decided to phone me. The moment I picked up the phone and heard her voice, I was reminded of all the reasons I'd cut ties with her and my father. I didn't even get a "how have you been?" or "I miss you" before she got right into it. She began discussing the divorce, my brother, and how I needed to be the bigger person and maintain peace for the benefit of the family. That's when I snapped. I don't recall what I said, but I know I told her I didn't want to hear it anymore. She went on, however, about how difficult things were for my brother and how I was punishing the child by not intervening. I told her I didn't care and wasn't going to fix their mess anymore. I hung up after that. That conversation made me numb. For some reason, it reminded me of everything my parents had done to me, how they always favored my brother, how they tolerated his worst conduct, and how they always expected me to be the quiet one who simply accepted everything they threw at me. It has never been about me. Not once. I've always been the backup son, expected to deal with whatever trash came my way. Hearing my mother defend my brother again was like getting slapped in the face. It made me realize that nothing had changed, not with my parents or with him. And to be honest, it is why I am not returning. As tempting as it is to take the moral high ground, I know I'd only be perpetuating the toxic cycle. So, I'm finished. I've made peace with going away, but this situation has resurfaced many old scars that I thought were healed. As much as I want to block everything out and pretend it's not happening, I can't ignore the reality that the child is caught in the center of it all. I keep thinking about how helpless he must feel as he watches everything unfold. I know he is innocent, but what if he is being emotionally manipulated, as my ex was? It kills me just thinking about it. Still, I keep telling myself that this is not my struggle. I've already been through enough, and I'm not about to be drawn back into their drama. I've been sitting with these emotions for a few days, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wants to just move on, leave them to their mess, and walk away forever. But there's another part of me that wonders if I can aid the child without getting sucked back into the fray. I'm not sure what the correct move is yet. But I do know one thing: I cannot allow myself to return to the person I was before. The one who was always trying to make everything better for everyone else while ignoring my own needs. I worked way too hard to get here to be dragged back in. But the remorse over the child? Yes, it is still there. And it isn't going away anytime soon. How would you handle my situation? Would you help, or would you just walk away? I'm having trouble finding the right balance. Update 2. I figured things would calm down following my last update, but I was mistaken. Instead, things have become even worse, and I'm honestly wondering how I put up with these individuals for so long. I feel like the universe is putting my determination to the test. Every time I believe I've erected a tall enough wall to keep them out, someone finds a way to sneak over it or slip through a crack. Since my mother's call, I've been completely inundated. It began with a few texts from my extended family, including aunts, uncles, and cousins. And now it appears that they have all established a single front. They're coming at me from all sides, accusing me of damaging the family by not supporting my brother, or, worse, by remaining out of his family problems, despite the fact that I am doing just that. It's as if they believe I'm bound to get engaged simply because we share blood. Some of them have even accused me of holding a grudge and not being a man about it. I've been working hard over the last 2 years to restore my life and move on from the toxic disaster they created. They now believe I should abandon everything in order to return to the drama. It is exhausting. They don't understand that leaving away was not a choice made out of spite, but out of necessity. I couldn't keep living in that familial dynamic. It was suffocating. But they do not want to hear that. To them, family means unwavering commitment, even if it means sacrificing your happiness and well-being. On top of all the familial drama, I've begun receiving emails from my ex-fiancée. She's been sending them every few days now. I initially ignored them but ultimately caved in and opened one. I almost wished I hadn't, because they were all identical. She begs me to reconsider, emphasizing how much I can help her and her child. Each email is more urgent than the last, and she has even started sending photos of the child. I understand she's in a bad predicament, but the entire situation feels exploitative. She knows I'm not heartless, and I believe she's attempting to use that against me. She seems to know that if she tugs on my heartstrings, I will give in. The thing is, I am not stupid. I see what she is doing. But I can't deny it makes me feel guilty. I did not ask for those photos, and I did not want them. But she knows I'll look at them, and the child's face in those photos, with his little eyes looking up at me, guilt trips me more than anything else. I can't shake the feeling that I'm letting him down, although knowing that not becoming engaged is the correct thing to do. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, one of my old acquaintances contacted me unexpectedly. He's someone I haven't communicated with in years, but he obviously heard about the scenario through the grapevine. He called me late one evening, and when his name appeared on the screen, I almost didn't respond. I wasn't in the mood for another, "you should do the right thing" conversation, but I answered anyway. He didn't even waste time exchanging pleasantries. He stepped straight in, telling me to be the larger person and aid my ex-fiancée, even if it was simply to safeguard the child. He went on to say that I couldn't just let a child suffer because of my brother's actions. I'm not sure if he didn't comprehend the whole picture or if he just didn't care, but it was evident to me that he expected me to help simply because it was the moral thing to do. He depicted me as a monster for not immediately going to her rescue. I told him I couldn't help and that the matter was between her, my brother, and my family, not me. But he didn't hear it. He accused me of being stubborn, carrying grudges, and neglecting this child's needs. He made it sound as if I was abandoning someone who was obviously in need. But here's the thing, she's not the only person in need. I've spent so many years in this toxic environment, dealing with everyone else's problems but never my own. I am done with that. I quickly stopped the call, but it only made me feel more conflicted. I wanted to defend myself and explain why I wasn't going to get involved, but I didn't. I understand it is not my obligation to clean up this mess. I understand she and her family made their decisions, and they now have to live with them. But the guilt is still there. No matter how hard I try, it's been difficult to focus on anything else lately. I find myself questioning everything. I went out with some friends the other day to distract myself from the situation, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. One of them even joked that I was being a good Samaritan by not getting involved, which made me laugh. But it wasn't amusing. It only made me feel even more alienated. My buddies don't truly comprehend what I'm going through. The few friends I have left from my old life are either too afraid to speak up or simply believe I am doing the right thing. However, it does not feel right. Especially when a child is involved. I've also been thinking about how my ex-fiance's situation could worsen if my brother and parents continue to press for full custody. I'm honestly not sure what could happen. My family has always been adept at manipulating the system, and I've witnessed them do so previously. I'm concerned that the youngster will be placed in a circumstance that is as horrible, if not worse, than what he is now suffering with. Despite these sentiments, I can't bring myself to get personally involved. So, I am still stuck. Part of me continues thinking that remaining out of it is the proper decision. But another part of me is questioning if I'm making the wrong decision. Will I live in regret if I don't help? And if I do help, would it only lead me back into their toxic world? This is a no-win situation. What would you do in my shoes? Would you aid the child, even if it meant reconnecting with your poisonous family again? Or would you keep your distance and let them sort things out for themselves? Update 3. After reading more of your comments and reflecting on the situation, I realized I couldn't sit back and do nothing, for the sake of the child. While I owe nothing to my ex-fiancé or my family, I understood that the child did not choose to be born into this situation. He is innocent. And if I have the means to help him escape the toxic environment that my brother and family have created, I should try. But I also realized that if I was going to do something, I needed to keep my peace in the process. I will not let them take me back into their world. I've worked too hard to rebuild my life and set boundaries, and I'm not going to give it all up for something out of my control. So I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Eventually, I came up with what I thought was the best compromise. I submitted an anonymous report to Child Protective Services, CPS. At first, I was unsure whether this was the proper decision. But as I thought about it more, it seemed evident that this was the only way I could possibly help without getting dragged back into the pandemonium. One evening, I sat down with all of the information I had. What my ex-fiancé had told me about my brother's behavior, how my parents treated her, and how toxic and manipulative the family dynamic had always been. I added all pertinent detail I could think of. I didn't simply talk about the physical and mental trauma my ex-fiancé had experienced. I also discussed how my brother's dominating behavior had impacted everyone around him, particularly her. I detailed how he had always used his charm to trick everybody, including my parents, into turning a blind eye to what he did. I made sure to explain how my parents had always supported him, making excuses for him and putting me aside in the process. I realized that if CPS was to investigate the incident, they would need to grasp the entire context of the child's surroundings. My brother's behavior was not the only issue. My family had always opted to enable his acts rather than hold him accountable. I also attached screenshots of some of the emails my ex-fiancé sent me. She had expressed her fear for herself and the child, her sense of being imprisoned in the marriage, and her lack of a support system. I knew I didn't have first-hand evidence of abuse against the child, but I hoped CPS would find enough in what I presented to launch an investigation. They might not be able to locate enough to intervene, but they would at least be aware of the situation. I needed to know that someone was watching out for the child, even if it wasn't me. Filing that report felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. It was the proper thing to do, but I didn't have to return to the craziness of my old life. I informed CPS that I wanted to remain anonymous and did not want to be contacted for follow-ups or participate in the case in any way. I did not want my name mentioned. I just wanted to make sure the kid was secure, and I felt if CPS thought my report had merit, they'd look into it further without my involvement. I did not expect immediate feedback or closure. CPS was unlikely to provide me with updates, and if they did, it would most likely be after they had done an inquiry. I was at ease knowing that I had done everything I could. I didn't have to reopen old wounds from my family's dysfunction, nor did I have to get caught up in their drama. At the end of the day, the report was the most effective thing I could do without jeopardizing my mental health or the life I'd worked so hard to rebuild. In the days that followed, I attempted to concentrate on moving forward, which is easier said than done. My family is relentless, and every time I think they'll leave me alone, another message or email appears. This time, it wasn't simply my mother and a distant cousin. This time, my brother reached out. And honestly, I didn't know how to answer. He sent me a short email accusing me of betraying the family and acting vindictively. He told me I was making a major mistake and would regret it. But there was something else about the tone of the message that made me pause for a moment. It wasn't simply anger. He was concerned. I did not even bother responding. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that everything he said was pure manipulation. It was not about him. It was about control. And I wasn't about to fall for it again. I've done this song and dance previously. It is always the same. They try to make me feel awful about setting boundaries and doing the right thing. But, in the end, they're the ones who caused this mess. I don't owe them an explanation anymore, for anything. I hadn't heard from my ex-fiancée in a few days, which was a relief, until yesterday, when I received one final email from her. It was short. Just a simple message that read, "Thank you. And I'm sorry for what I put you through." There are no details. No explanations. Only those words. It left me with mixed emotions. On the one hand, I'm relieved she acknowledged the pain she caused. But on the other hand, it made me realize how much she is going through. Perhaps something has changed in her situation, or she is finally recognizing the truth of her predicament. Regardless, it's evident that she's still battling. I don't know what will happen next in her custody struggle, but if there's even a slim chance she can get the child out of that harmful atmosphere, I hope it goes well for her. But I have to tell myself that I cannot get back engaged. I can't solve her problems. And I've already contributed significantly. Now it is up to the authorities. If CPS investigates and finds sufficient evidence to act, I will have done my part. If not, I'll have to admit that I can't control everything, no matter how much I want to. Final update. Thank you to everyone who has provided advice, encouragement, and even tough love. Your words helped me understand the big picture and gave me the confidence to act without second-guessing myself. And to anyone reading this who may be in a similar situation, it's okay to keep your peace. You can care for others while still maintaining your boundaries. Doing the right thing can sometimes entail taking a step back and allowing the system to work. You don't have to repair everything yourself. Do what you can and leave the rest to people who are more qualified to manage it. I'm not sure what will happen next, with my ex-fiancé, my brother, or any of this mess. But I know one thing. Whatever happens, I will be fine. I discovered my parents stole my $200,000 trust fund to support my sister. When I exposed them, they got furious and kicked me out of the house. To provide some context, my sister Corey has Down syndrome. She is 4 years older than me, and I've known for as long as I can remember that my sister was different from me in many ways. Even as a small child, I noted that Corey would respond strongly to every circumstance. If things didn't go her way, even in minor ways, she would scream and weep in a manner that most children did not. It was as if she couldn't take the frustration of things not living up to her expectations. Growing up, Corey had no pals. She had difficulty picking up on social cues and frequently came across as abrupt or even rude. While she wasn't trying to be impolite, her directness could be off-putting to other children who didn't comprehend her situation. As a result, many youngsters preferred to maintain their distance, leaving her feeling alienated. As a result, my parents made it a point to include me in her social life, frequently reminding me that I needed to bring her along when I went out with my friends. I realized they wanted her to feel included and have someone to interact with, so I didn't mind having my elder sister along. I felt it would be wonderful for her to have some company, and perhaps even make a few friends through my own social circles. However, spending time with Corey in the company of my friends was not easy. Her social skills were weak, and she struggled to integrate into groups. She often acted out in unexpected ways. She would occasionally push or even strike other children, especially if they had something she wanted. As a result, over time, my pals were less interested in hanging out with me if Corey was also around. They didn't want to deal with her unpredictable behavior, and I understood why. They were merely kids who wanted to play without interruptions or outbursts of hostility. Corey's impatience and inclination to lash out made things difficult for everyone, and I couldn't blame my friends for backing away from those circumstances. I understood that, as her sister, I had a responsibility to support and be there for Corey, especially given her struggles. But, to be honest, I needed space to mature, find my own friends, and live my life independently. However, my parents never let me be myself. Whenever I wanted to go something alone or spend time with my friends without Corey, they made me feel awful for even considering leaving her behind. They'd say things like, "Sisters should stick together," or "You need to think about Corey, she's your sister." It was as if they expected me to always choose her over my friends or anybody else, no matter what I wanted or needed for myself. What made things worse was that they never seemed to put these same efforts into assisting Corey comprehend how to change her conduct or develop her social skills. They never sat her down to explain why sharing or being compassionate with others could help her connect with others more effectively. Instead, they seemed to accept that I would fill in all of the gaps in her social life. So, throughout the years, I became Corey's lone buddy by default. Don't get me wrong, I adore Corey. She is family, and I recognize that none of this is her fault. I understand she confronts her own set of obstacles every day, and I can't imagine what it's like to be in her shoes. But, at the same time, do you know how it feels to be the invisible child in a family? My parents' entire world revolved around Corey, with every choice, idea, and money intended to make her life easier and more comfortable. Corey requires ongoing attention and specialized care. My parents have spent a lot of money on her numerous therapies over the years, including physiotherapy to help with her physical coordination, speech therapy to improve her communication, and occupational therapy to help her develop motor skills and independence. She also gets regular checkups, medical tests, and evaluations to track her progress and keep her health in control. The care she requires is considerable and time-consuming. While I fully grasp its significance, it frequently felt as if there was little place for me. One of Corey's specific issues is her lack of impulse control, which makes understanding boundaries difficult. For example, she is obsessed with the color pink and enjoys anything pink. She is instantly drawn to anything in that color. She feels impelled to seize it, hold it, and not let go. It doesn't matter whether it's a pink pocketbook, a teddy bear, a piece of clothes, or someone else's prized possessions. Once it's in her hands, she clings to it, and if anyone attempts to take it away, she bursts into tears, sometimes having a full-fledged breakdown. This tendency has resulted in numerous unpleasant situations, particularly while we are out in public. My parents frequently have to bargain with individuals or buy these pink trinkets from complete strangers simply to get Corey to calm down. I've seen them pay for a variety of strange pink items, some of which are worthless to us but mean everything to Corey at the time. I understand why they do it, and I understand that it's more than a wish for her. It's practically a need over which she has no control. However, watching my parents devote so much time, money, and mental energy to soothing her urges and satisfying her demands has left me feeling forgotten. Furthermore, my parents' approach to parenting Corey has had serious ramifications over the years. Their method of keeping her satisfied has devolved into what I can only describe as a shopping addiction. For Corey, it began simply enough. Every weekend, my parents would purchase her something pink. A toy, a piece of jewelry, or another trinket, to keep her happy and as a bargaining chip for her cooperation throughout the week. My parents would tell Corey that she had to be a good girl, if she wanted them to give her whatever she wanted, and she would instantly agree. What began as a temporary arrangement quickly evolved into a cherished family ritual. These purchases are not inexpensive either. Many of the goods Corey desires are one of a kind or custom-made, which frequently requires a significant investment. For a long time, I didn't think about the cost of all this pink stuff. I thought my parents could afford it. I never questioned how they could afford to continue this habit week after week, year after year. But soon, I discovered something I could not have anticipated. My parents had not been managing their expenses through regular budgeting or savings. They have been committing fraud to cover the rising prices. You see, when I was born, my grandparents established a trust fund for both me and Corey, with equal sums given to us. Corey, who has Down syndrome, was supposed to use the money for her therapies or whatever else she needed, but I was supposed to use mine for college or a down payment on a home. Only my parents had access to these funds, but my grandparents trusted them to handle them carefully. They also made certain that Corey and I were aware of these trust funds from a young age, allowing us to rely on them for financial support. It was a thoughtful present from my grandparents, and I always felt secure knowing that the trust fund would be available when the time came. When Corey reached 18, she received a portion of the trust monies. Since she still lives with and relies on my parents, they have been in charge of managing her money. They've utilized her trust fund over the years to assist pay for her treatments and therapies, which have become more demanding as she's gotten older. The money has helped with everything, from her medical treatment to providing the materials she requires for daily life. I recognized that the money was intended to meet her needs, and I never questioned how it was being spent. When I turned 18, I anticipated to get my half of the trust fund, as promised. I had previously planned to utilize the money for my college tuition. Once that was taken care of, I intended to preserve the remainder for any additional bills that would arise as I approached maturity. I had my future planned out, and I was counting on that fund to help me forge a steady route forward. But little did I know, my hopes would soon be dashed. My grandparents arranged a fantastic 18th birthday party for me last week. They had done the same for Corey when she turned 18, so I had been looking forward to my own celebration for quite some time. They had invited everyone in their family. I was genuinely pleased, surrounded by the people I cared about, and it was one of those days when everything felt just right. Following the cake cutting, my grandparents made an announcement to the entire gathering. They told me how proud they were to see me all grown up and gone to college, and that as a birthday present this year, I would receive the trust fund they had put up for me years before. The entire room erupted in cheers and clapping, with everyone praising me on this incredible gift. I felt a rush of exhilaration and thankfulness come over me as I hugged and thanked my grandparents for everything. But in the midst of all the enthusiasm, I saw that my parents were the only ones who did not appear joyful. While everyone else smiled and congratulated me, my parents seemed unconcerned. They stood off to the side, their faces strained, almost uncomfortable. I could see them exchanging glances, and while they didn't say anything, there was a discomfort to them that was difficult to miss. It struck me as peculiar, but in the excitement of the celebration, I didn't give it much thought. I wanted to enjoy the rest of the party, so I put it to the back of my mind. Later that evening, when we got home from the party, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. My parents appeared uptight and didn't speak much with me. Typically, they were concerned about Corey's health, mood, or anything she needed. But that night, Corey appeared absolutely satisfied, playing with one of her new gifts. Sensing something else was going on, I finally asked my folks if there was anything wrong. That's when my father gave me a serious look and informed me that he and my mother needed to talk to me alone. The tone of his voice immediately sent shivers down my spine. I could see it was serious. We sat together in the living room, and they exchanged troubled looks before my father began to talk. He explained, almost tentatively, that they wouldn't be able to give me my trust fund as my grandparents had planned. I didn't understand what he meant at first, so I asked him to clarify. My father continued, his voice full of shame and despair. He revealed that throughout the years, they had spent all of Corey's trust fund on her. When there was nothing left, they began to utilize the money from my trust fund, which they had access to. With a big sigh, he revealed that 90% of my trust fund was already gone, leaving little for me. I was taken aback as I considered what he had just stated. The money set aside for my future, for my education, was gone. He went on to say that the majority of money had been spent on my sister's shopping habit and the various treatments she required. As his words sank in, a numbness crept over me. My thoughts raced, attempting to figure out how this happened without my knowledge. They had raided my trust fund without informing me, to cover Corey's bills and habits. I questioned why they would do something like this to me. My parents began to justify themselves, their words laced with defensiveness. They informed me that caring for Corey had cost them a lot of money, but they had no choice but to do it. Her needs have always come first. My father discussed the never-ending expenses, the therapies, treatments, and, of course, the innumerable gifts she required every week to stay calm. I contended that they could have ceased buying her all of those items when they learned they were financially taxing. They did, however, highlight that for Corey, these goods were more than just luxuries. They were things that helped her manage and made her world a bit simpler to understand. And for them, every penny spent had been worthwhile. They couldn't simply refuse her. At that point, I felt a rush of rage fill up inside me. I questioned how they could justify spending nearly everything I had saved for my future without even speaking with me. Didn't I matter to them? My father tried to calm me down, stating that I needed to comprehend what they had been through. He discussed the stress they'd felt, the sacrifices they'd had to make as Corey's caregivers, and how difficult it was to satisfy her requirements week after week. My mother nodded, noting that Corey's condition necessitated continual care. And sometimes that meant spending money in ways that were unfair to me but were important for Corey. Both of them felt that because I didn't have any of Corey's ailments, I had an advantage over her, therefore I shouldn't be so greedy with the money. I felt a tear of frustration run down my cheek as I assured them that I wasn't doubting Corey's needs or their decision to prioritize her care. I loved her too. But this was about the lack of honesty, how they had gone behind my back and exploited what was meant to be my future without believing I deserved to know. I informed them that this trust money had been my only source of security, the one thing I felt I could rely on to start my life on my own, and it was now almost completely gone. Instead of addressing how upset and betrayed I felt, they began gaslighting me, turning the subject around on me. They expressed disappointment that I couldn't be more understanding, and that as Corey's sister, I should appreciate that sometimes sacrifices were necessary. They said, "We are all in this together." I was astounded that they wanted me to simply accept it all as a fool. To realize that Corey's needs had to come first, no questions asked. I questioned them why it was always Corey and not me. Did they not want me to do anything in my life? That's when my parents revealed a plan they had for my future, which revolved solely around taking on the task of caring for Corey. They explained that they never cared about my education because it isn't that important. They expected me to step up and help them with Corey's financial and emotional needs. My mother looked at me with a mix of pleading and resignation, saying, "You know, we're getting older, and it's exhausting looking after Corey. We won't be able to do this forever, so we need you to step in." She went on to say that they didn't mind if I went to a local college rather than the college of my choice. She only hoped I'd get a steady job as soon as I graduated so I could bring Corey to live with me. Then she said we could finally rest. Dad advised that I start contributing financially sooner, while still in college, by working a part-time job and sending money home to Corey. It would help Corey have some independence in her life, he told me, by letting her buy whatever it is that she wants and allowing her to maintain the lifestyle we've provided for her. I sat there, stunned, trying to figure out what my folks expected me to do. At that point, I felt completely misled and frustrated. This was not the future I envisioned for myself. It seemed as if my parents expected me to abandon my own aspirations and plans in order to easily transition into their role as Corey's caregiver, without ever asking what I desired for my own life. Finally, I roared at them, my voice quivering with years of accumulated rage and hurt. "Have you ever thought about what I want? Or am I just here to live for Corey? You never even thought to ask me what I wanted, did you? All these years, I've been expected to just give, and now you're pushing me to be Corey's caretaker so you can rest. How is any of this fair?" My voice trembled as the rage spilled out. "You're making decisions for me without even considering what it means for my life. I can't just drop everything for Corey and pretend like my dreams don't matter." All of my bottled up anger spilled out, years of feeling forgotten, years of being told I needed to prioritize Corey, and years of watching them pander to her every whim while I was expected to quietly support from the sidelines. My folks constantly attempt to persuade me that I shouldn't be so selfish and inconsiderate. It was as if they wanted me to conform and embrace a life I had never planned for simply because they believed it was better for Corey. So, since last week, I've been completely ignoring my parents. All I feel for them is contempt. Am I the a-hole for reporting my parents for taking my trust fund and spending it on my sister? Update 1. Wow, this post has gone viral in just a few hours. Thank you for all your advice. I am currently on my way to tell my grandparents everything. Since the trust fund was created with their money, I believe it is critical that I have their support while I confront this matter. After I've explained everything to them, I plan to let my grandparents decide what we should do next. I trust their judgment and know they will have my best interests at heart as we find out how to tackle this together. I had kept my voice shut all these time because I truly believed my folks would finally come around. However, it is evident that they have not. Update 2. It has been 2 weeks since my last update, so I told my grandparents everything. They were as astonished as I was to learn that my parents had utilized my trust fund without my authorization. That same week, my grandparents came to question my parents about what had happened to my trust fund. My grandparents had worked hard to establish the fund for both me and Corey. They were deeply committed to ensuring that we have the financial resources we require for our futures. They were understandably upset when they discovered that my parents had illegally drained the money behind their backs. My parents answered by telling them the same sob story they had shared with me. They recounted, once again, how they had been obliged to spend the money on Corey's care and therapy. They urged my grandparents to explain why they did what they did, as if their rationale would somehow make it all right. But my grandfather would have none of it. He roared at them, his voice filled with fury and amazement. He told them unequivocally that they were accountable for repaying the whole trust fund, regardless of the circumstances or justifications for its use. He was visibly angry and felt betrayed by my parents' conduct. For a moment, I hoped they'd finally accept responsibility and set things right. Then, frightened, my mother came to my grandparents and began pleading with them. She indicated that caring for Corey was difficult, and that her needs were numerous and frequent. She stated that Corey's trust money was insufficient to support the increasing costs of her treatments and ongoing bills. She rationalized taking my trust fund by claiming it helped them care for Corey. And then, in an almost horrible twist of fate, my parents turned against me. They reprimanded me for telling my grandparents everything. They were upset that I had revealed their activities and forced them to face the repercussions. My dad, in particular, was furious. He told me, with a strong edge in his voice, that I should consider myself fortunate since I was born normal, unlike Corey, and that I shouldn't despise her sister so much. It was as if my entire life, my challenges and needs, didn't matter. Everything revolved around Corey. And now I was being punished for not fitting in with the role they had chosen for me. Without thinking, I looked them in the eye and told them straight out that if they didn't give me back the money I owed, I would sue them and make sure they went to jail for their actions. I reminded them that what they did was illegal, and there was no way they could justify it in court. They couldn't prove otherwise that the trust fund was intended for me and only me. My tone was calm, but my comments were plain and firm. I could see the color drain from my parents' faces as they comprehend what I had just spoken. For the first time, I genuinely stood up for myself, and I could see the shock in their faces. They were not used to me being that straightforward. So resolute. Fortunately, my grandparents nodded in accord. They supported me because they knew I was correct. Seeing their encouragement, I persisted, speaking with greater conviction. I told my parents that it didn't matter how much they spent on Corey or what they did for her. Corey was their child, and it wasn't my obligation to give up my future for her. I loved Corey, of course, and I would always be there for her, but I wasn't going to sacrifice my own life, education, and goals just to make her feel cared for. I made it plain that I was tired of always coming second to her, of being overlooked while her needs were always prioritized. I finished by declaring I was done with them. I had had enough of being treated like the invisible child, who was expected to meekly accept whatever scraps were left for her. For the first time in my life, I stood up for myself, and I knew I could never take it back. My parents had pushed me to my limit, and I was not going to allow them to continue to dictate my life. My father instantly disagreed, his voice full of shock and anger, insisting that I couldn't threaten them with jail. He told me that as their child, I should have family loyalty and be willing to support them at all times, especially after everything they had done for me over the years. His statements were intended to make me feel guilty and to remind me of my responsibilities to them. My mother, attempting to ease the situation, even weighed in, proposing that since there was still 10% of my trust fund remaining, I could simply accept it and keep my mouth shut. It felt like they were treating me like a charity case, as if the residual crumbs from my trust fund were all I deserved and I should forget about anything else. But my granddad refused to back down. He came in, his voice stern, and informed my parents that if they didn't agree to give me back the full amount, he would get the best lawyer in town to sue them. The possibility of legal action appeared to have had a significant impact on my parents. They eventually became silent, recognizing my grandfather meant business. After a tense exchange, they reluctantly admitted that what they had done was incorrect. Nonetheless, they begged my grandparents for some time to consider things over. However, the ramifications didn't stop there. My father was furious with me for exposing them to my grandparents and threatening him and Mom with jail time. In his rage, he declared that he never wanted to see my face again. He urged me to leave his house, stating he had had enough of supporting a selfish person like me, someone who could backstab their own family, like this. When my grandparents heard this, they quickly offered to have me move in with them. They assured me that I always had a home with them and that they would help me in every way they could as I worked out my next steps. So, without hesitation, I packed my clothing, gathered my necessary documents, and moved out of my parents' house. Currently, I live with my grandparents. I hate that my parents have just kicked me out, but I'm also relieved to be away from them. I miss Corey a lot. I'm aware that what I did has permanently damaged my relationship with my family. However, I do not regret standing up for myself. Update 3. It's been a month since I last updated. After much pressure and legal threats from my grandfather, my parents finally signed an agreement drawn out by my grandfather's lawyer. The terms were easy. Because they could not repay the entire cash they had taken from me in one lump sum, they would make installments over the next 18 months. This would give them time to pay off the loan gradually, without putting a hardship on their finances all at once. However, the agreement had a vital stipulation. If they failed to make any payment by the agreed-upon date, or if they did not follow through at all, my grandparents and I had the right to initiate urgent legal action. This clause served as a safeguard, ensuring that they couldn't avoid paying me back. My folks are still unhappy with me. They blame me for everything that has happened, and it seems like they are unable to let go of their wrath or humiliation. They still don't understand why I took the actions I did and stood up for myself in such a dramatic fashion. Despite their hatred, my grandma has assured me that none of this is my fault. She told me again today that I did what I needed to do to protect myself and my future, and that I should focus on moving forward now rather than looking back. I see Corey from time to time. She misses me, and I miss her also. She frequently inquires about me, and it is evident that she is unaware of the complete picture. But she understands enough to see that something significant occurred between us. She's noticed that I'm not as present as I once was and that my parents did something to injure me. It's horrible not to be able to help her understand how bad our parents are. Regardless, I'll always be there for her. My wife got bored with me and secretly called her ex to come and F her. This is how I uncovered everything. Hello everyone, I've been lurking on this topic for over a year, but I can't keep reading and need some advice on my predicament. I would welcome any feedback. I'm 35 years old, and my 31-year-old wife stopped having any intimacy with me about 6 months ago, and I'm not sure what to do. We have 2 boys, one is 3 years old and the other is 1.5. We are also in the process of building a house. I don't like watching the world burn, and I like to take action as soon as possible to address any difficulties. So I started a talk with my wife to figure out what transpired. I asked her, why did you stop speaking to me, hugging me, and kissing me? Why did you get concerned about the contact of my hand on your body? Why did you stop having any type of closeness with me? She was initially reluctant to speak. There was a difficult cover to breach, but she eventually opened up. What I discovered is that I'm not enough for her. She's doing everything alone. Can't rely on me, and feels like she's wearing the pants around the house. She told me she makes all of the decisions and handles the kids on her own. She even stated, "You would be better alone." She mentioned that I'm an introvert, but not a diehard one, among other things. It was upsetting to hear, but I accepted her words. I assured her I understood her suffering and promised to improve my behavior so she wouldn't have to worry about it. I love her so much that I'd rather agree than start a fight. However, I have my own thoughts, which occasionally prevent me from sleeping. A major red flag led me to this group. Her accusations are false, in my opinion, yet I honestly believe I meet the standards of a good husband. I work from home for about 8 to 9 hours per day, but then I care for my boys. I play with them, feed them, take the older one swimming, put them to bed and so on. I can also get up in the middle of the night if necessary. Aside from caring for the children, I help with housework. I do the dishes, grocery shopping, and some cleaning, but she likes to clean because I am not as efficient. I handle the car and other aspects of our new home. I do a lot to make her life simpler, and I know it's difficult with 2 little sons. The truth is, I'm not someone who is constantly proactive. Some folks can't sit on the couch for more than 5 minutes without thinking about what to do next, what to mend, what business to start, or what duties to complete. Her father is like this, but I am not. Once the kids are asleep, the work is completed, and the house is cleaned, I prefer to relax by watching a movie or playing video games. I am also not the sort to start my own business. I am skilled in my profession and prefer to be instructed what to do in order to do my tasks successfully. There are plenty of people like that, and I'm not ashamed of it. I don't pursue a glamorous career. I don't imagine having millions in my bank account. I'm simply a regular guy, a good-looking one, who wants to have a healthy, happy family while earning a reasonable living. I knew she was having problems with that, despite having been happily married for 4 years and together for 5 years prior. The conversation happened in December. After that, I began to work against my personality, which resulted in some proactive effort, such as additional groceries and house repairs. Basically, not sitting on my butt in the evenings. There's no rest. She liked it, but it didn't improve her attitude toward me, so I had to initiate a second conversation. Given how she treated me, I questioned her from the outset. Do you want to save the marriage? She said, I don't know. It was difficult to swallow, but in order to proceed, I asked her, do you want to go to marriage counseling? She said, I don't know. I continued. It's not a moment to not know if our kids may have parents living separately soon. After hearing that, she agreed, and I needed to get a therapist. She showed no interest in that. During our conversation, she revealed to me several sad truths such as, I married you simply to impress my parents and married sisters so that we might have a large happy family with beautiful children. I married you because I was fascinated rather than in love. I also learnt that she had a meeting with her colleague clergyman to discuss our marriage. Anyway, I found a fantastic therapist, and we're approaching our third session. We discovered that we have distinct love languages. I require touch, she needs work done. However, she hasn't touched me since we started counseling. No hugging. After the 2 sessions, I asked her whether she liked it and how she felt, and all she said was that she's uncomfortable sharing our personal information with an unknown stranger. When the therapist discovered we hadn't slept in the same room in 6 months, she was taken aback. My wife said that it is because she is sleeping with the children in the bed, and there is no room for me. The therapist responded that not allowing a husband in the bedroom sets a negative example for the children, and that if there isn't enough room on the bed, go to IKEA and buy a single bed and install it next to the larger one. I did exactly that. I bought it, put it together, and am currently sleeping there. Funny thing is, I still feel like I'm sleeping alone. She's far to the left, the boys are in the center, and I'm far to the right. My wife's testimony has altered slightly since the beginning of the issue. She began to express her depression as a result of spending so much time at home with her children. She informed me she said all of those things because she was overly emotional, etc. I would never say anything like that to her under any circumstances, but I guess I had to trust her. She recently returned to work, and we hired a nanny. The only change in her conduct is that we began to communicate, but I am more than just her friend. I am also her spouse, and there is no intimacy. There are no signs that things will improve. She doesn't care about the next marriage counseling appointments, so I have to keep arranging them. She informed me she doesn't need sex and had only done it when I wanted it. I felt like an abuser. She was never into lovemaking. We had it once a week, which was okay with me. It could have happened more frequently, but it was fine. We've had sex twice this year, both out of pity. One was in early January to celebrate my birthday. Now it appears that I need to have a birthday to be laid. The other time was following a counseling session. She just lay there, covering her chest and waiting for me to finish, which made me want it less. That is not what this is meant to be about. When I bring it up, she simply replies, "That's who I am. If you don't like it, simply leave me." I do not know what to do. Please advise. Update 1. There was one instance where my wife attempted to phone her ex-boyfriend 4 times in a row at 10 p.m. She didn't talk to him, but she attempted to contact him. I know this because we used to have an app that saved our 2 phone numbers and allowed me to see incoming and outgoing calls for both. After that, I went crazy. Why does my wife contact her ex 4 times at 10 p.m.? I chose to check her texts on her laptop. I felt bad, but it was justified. We were married, had children, and she was acting strangely. After phoning him 4 times, she texted him, "I'm going to keep calling until you pick up and talk to me like a normal human being." When I asked her about it, she lied and said she wouldn't call him. So I showed her the app and her outgoing calls. She had nothing else to do except admit that she attempted to contact him. I inquired why, and she said that she was phoning back, knowing that she had also written to him after the call. I asked if she wrote to him after the call, and she responded no. Then I showed her the message she sent to him. She said that he had gotten drunk and called her, saying some nonsense. When she heard it, she ordered him to fuck off and hung up. Then she felt bad about it and tried calling him 4 times because he didn't answer. Finally, she wrote what she did and he did not respond. I'm not sure what to think about it. It happened about the time she stopped being intimate with me. Her perspective on the scenario is that it is neither strange nor awful, and that hiding it from me was not crucial to her. The point is, any communication with an ex is a terrible sign, and it is unacceptable to me. Is she cheating? We hadn't had any intimacy in 6 months and then the calls came. Update 2. Thanks to everybody for your insights. At first, I couldn't believe how many of you said she was cheating on me. It reminded me of science fiction, something I'd only see in movies. Maybe I thought my wife would never do something like this, but today everything changed. It became a fact. I feel stupid for being just another person in this circumstance, but I guess that's how life works. Now I know I promised to call her ex and speak with her family, but I decided to take a step back and keep it cool. Could you believe how simple that was? All I did was install a voice-activated recorder in our car, not a GPS. It was only there for 3 days. She took the car for work, then went to a workout, and then called him. Or perhaps he called her. I'm not sure who called who, but I heard everything. It was a video conversation on the phone. I learned everything I needed to know about sex and our respective lifestyles. They talked as my wife and I did when we first met 9 years ago. The same attraction, jokes, and so on. I haven't had this with her in a long time. They even discussed vacation plans. She wants to visit him in July. Wow, she offered him 2 years to move back to our country. I can't believe this. Now, after listening to an hour-long recording of this nonsense, I have some things to process. I need to meet with an attorney next week. All I wanted to say was thank you. You opened my eyes. If it hadn't been for you, I would never have purchased the blasted voice recorder. And to think, I felt horrible putting it in the car. My God. I will keep you updated, but for now, I need to relax and think about my children and what she has done. They started this in September of last year, and it took me 2 months to detect changes in her behavior. I will be caring for my elderly father in another city for the next week, therefore she will be unable to work for that time. Instead, she'll use my home office. This also indicates she'll most likely be speaking with him in the office. Should I store the recorder in the office for the next week, or do I have enough? Update 3. It began in September of last year, and I've been out of the picture for quite some time. Right now, she doesn't want to spend any time with me in the apartment we rent. She always has an excuse, something to do, visiting her parents, going to see her friends, etc. She even falls asleep or simply lies in bed after we put our children to bed, 1 and 3 years old. The recording says it all. She expresses her love for him, her desire to visit him, and to have sex with him. They talk extensively about his personal life. She told him she wanted to go on a trip with him and that she would marry him shortly. She even said she was leaving me. They talked about his preferred love-making position, so sure, they had sex. It is all there. The thing is, she has no idea that I know. Her entire family and circle of friends have no idea. They simply believe we are going through a brief crisis. She is one of 3 Catholic sisters and attends church every Sunday. We live in a tiny town with 20,000 inhabitants. We recently built a house, but it is not finished. I believe she will petition for divorce very soon. I can tell she is suffering with me in the apartment, and she can't take it longer. Her body language and absolute absence of discussion demonstrate this. She wants me to leave soon so that I can be gone for a while, and then, within 2 years, the AP, affair partner, will relocate to the tiny town to live with her and my 2 young sons in our home. In the recording, she says she gives him 2 years to return to our country. People will understand that she needs a father for her children and will not object. The AP is her first boyfriend, and they dated for 7 years before she married me. We have been together for 9 years. The AP lives abroad but makes frequent visits to our country. I refuse to be played that way. I now have an attorney, and we will meet with him soon to discuss this. I can basically ruin her reputation by giving people clips from the recording. Please provide me with any suggestions. What should I do if she served me papers? According to my attorney, my documents will require a month of preparation. I never imagined I would be dealing with a monster like this. Update 4. I visited with the attorney and got some important information. It turns out that destroying her universe would not be a wise decision. We have children, and I'll be co-parenting with her for the next 15 to 16 years. Another reason is that I respect her family and do not want them to serve as witnesses in the divorce. Also, I would not gain custody of the children because they are young and need to remain with their mother in the tiny town, which is an hour away from me in the capital city. I'd be an every other weekend father anyway. Finally, I would not be able to sell our house because the children require adequate living conditions and will not be able to find alternative housing. They are currently living on her father's farm, which is only temporary. As bad as it seems, this is the truth in Poland, Europe. Following our conversation, the attorney sent her the documents. They were scheduled to be delivered shortly after Easter. Easter is celebrated in Poland over 2 days, on Sunday and Monday. I faked it all at the table, and drinking helped a lot. Yesterday, Tuesday, I had a day off from work and was caring for my 1-year-old son. She went to work in the capital city, which is an hour away. In the interim, my brother assisted me in moving all of my belongings from the flat to his car. The postman delivered the divorce papers, which were actually an invitation to mediation, so that we could divide things civilly and divorce amicably. According to the article, she is in a relationship with this guy, which is why she is getting divorced. The evidence I have will be used as leverage when establishing child support, etc. When she entered the house, I informed her that I knew everything. I have incontrovertible documentation. I am profoundly hurt by it, and she should call my lawyer. Then I handed her the divorce papers and left to visit her folks. Of course, she began to question what and how I knew, and she denied everything. Her parents were shocked, but they believed me. I documented everything, as instructed by my counsel. It began with me asking if they thought I was a nice, caring husband and father. They agreed, and now she can't use them as witnesses against me in court. As I previously stated, they believed me and recognized that what she had done was horrific. She had devastated our lives as well as the lives of our children. I thanked them for their understanding and headed to the Capitol. Meanwhile, I called a buddy, who took care of delivering the news to her friends. 2 hours later, my brother-in-law called to tell me that she admitted to cheating on me with the affair partner, but she did not admit to having sex with him. He told me that everyone was on my side, and she had destroyed our family. He also informed me that her sister had visited my soon-to-be ex-wife and told her how nasty she is. But in the end, he claimed that all could be saved. He had cheated on his wife, she had forgiven him, and they were now happy. Then her father called and said that it was entirely her responsibility and that she had no idea what she had done. He informed me that the AP would never enter his home and that he would stop financially supporting my soon-to-be ex-wife. He even contacted the AP, but the individual did not answer. In the end, he expressed his belief that it could be salvaged. Finally, her other sister texted me, saying she fully supports me but feels it can be saved. I dislike that because I am certain it cannot be rescued. I'm concerned they'll cling to the fact that I don't have a love-making tape of them, and my reasoning will be insufficient to convince her to go. I have audio recordings of mom saying stuff like, "Make sure you'll last more than 3 seconds when I see you in Holland," and, "I wonder whether your dad's junk is the same as yours." You know what? I'll approach that woman and ask her how long your brother's crap is, then tell her how long yours is. She also used phrases like, "I love you. I am planning to leave my hubby. Please record yourself and give me the video. Your favorite position is crappy style with a straight back, and I'm showing you what your life with me will be like. I'm giving you 2 years to relocate back here." All of this, combined with her lack of emotion toward me during the last 7 months, is proof enough for me. Furthermore, soon after the incident, she informed me that she would never stop loving him. This is more than adequate proof for me. What are your thoughts? Anyway, as many of you have previously indicated, she is currently crawling back after her family confronted her with everything. She's sending me texts like, "I had no idea what I was doing. I can't picture life without you. I am deeply sorry for anything I have done. I'm waiting with the kids for your return." She also stated that she did not mean to inform me that she has always loved him. I'm not sure. They're making me feel like I rushed into the divorce since I don't have a real love-making tape. They do not know everything. All they know is that I have proof, but she won't acknowledge having sex with him. It's plausible because he's in Holland, but he may have seen her here. Update 5. Many of you informed me that now that the papers had been served, she would begin crawling back to save her face in front of the family and to get me back because she requires a lot of assistance with our 2 young boys. It happened, she began writing to me on Messenger, although not very frequently. All of the messages read the same. "I can't imagine my life without you. I love only you." She also sent images of our children and words stating, "We're waiting for you and love you very, very much." That is it. It has been 5 weeks and she hasn't contacted or visited me. She had numerous possibilities, including driving past my parents' house, where I currently live. Only Messenger texts appear infrequently. We also saw each other a few times while switching children, and she never tried to apologize or say anything, just a brief hi and bye. Her family began communicating with me much more regularly. Her father contacted me twice, her mother emailed me a dozen links to Christian pages about forgiveness, and one of her sisters texted me, apologizing and believing my wife has been possessed by an evil spirit. Her other sister explained how my wife had damaged our family and that she did not expect me to return to her. My brother-in-law even stopped over and took me out for a beer. He wasn't attempting to be persuasive. He was simply discussing what had happened and what might happen in the future if I didn't return. Sure, he wanted me to come back, but he wasn't forcing me. Essentially, all of these conversations were the same. "We can't believe she did what she did. We would like you to return to her, but we understand if you do not." However, the day came when I had made up my mind. My lawyer informed her lawyer that I had decided that I would not be able to forgive her in time and requested a divorce. My lawyer provided my terms, and we're currently waiting for her counsel to respond. While I waited for their response, her sister began criticizing me and telling me that I was going to wreck the marriage. She claimed unequivocally that it was my wife who started all of this by being selfish, but she is now very regretful, crying, and wishing she could turn back time. Now it is my turn to be selfish, and I intend to end the marriage by divorcing her. According to her, it's all on me now because I can rescind the divorce and return it for the children. She suggested I didn't even need to return to my wife, just raise my 2 sons. She told me how angry I am and how it will only become worse with time. She told me to just suck it up and keep living with my wife, framing this divorce as my revenge on her but stressing that it is also retribution on our children. I can't understand it. Others had warned me that this would happen, that the circumstances would shift and her family would turn against me, but it still shocked me. For a moment today I felt horrible, as if it was all my fault, that my wife treated me like garbage for more than half a year, that she chose to abandon me physically and emotionally, and that she wanted to leave. So yes, they had a strong influence on me. It's incredibly difficult, but I won't change my mind. The divorce will occur. It appears that they now have a narrative in which I am the guy who abandons the kids. I've been thinking about how to end this dispute by giving my terms for reconciliation, terms she's unlikely to accept. I don't love her, but I do it for the kids, whom I adore dearly. No marriage, only a relationship. Separate your finances. She leaves her hometown and moves with her children to the capital city where I live, GPS in the car till she stops driving in her old age, daily phone checks, all after I finish my 7 months of dates with random girls. I would also not be afraid to cheat during the relationship and never tell her. If she finds out, it makes no difference because there is no marriage. I do not care. What are your thoughts? It's only a notion. Nothing serious. I probably won't do it anyhow, but I don't know what else to do to keep the family from accusing me of abandoning the children. In Poland, Europe, tiny children like ours must be near their mother in the event of a divorce. I can't have them since she lives in a tiny town an hour distant from me, and the kids attend kindergarten and nursery there. We cannot divide custody 50-50ths. I'll be the every other weekend dad, with full access anytime I choose. It's sad and unpleasant, but that's how it is. Update 6. It's been 2 months since I confronted her, gave her divorce papers, and relocated to the capital city, an hour away from the little hamlet where we used to live together. I currently live with my parents and sleep on the couch in their living room. The dining table has been converted into a workspace/entertainment area, and my clothes are hung on every chair around. I work from home for 8 hours and then normally help my elderly parents, who are 88 and 71 years old, with household duties. I do their grocery and drive them to doctor's appointments. Apart from that, I go to the gym or the movies to get away from bad thoughts about what happened. I visit my children every weekend. She drops them off, and I take them back. The weekends are fantastic, and I find myself actually happy when I'm with them. I took a paternity test, and the boys are mine, so there is no confusion there. The situation with the divorce terms is currently unknown. It's difficult to predict what will happen because I live with my parents, and as a father of 2 and a mature man, I don't have anywhere else to live. I want a large sum of money from my wife and she is taking over the mortgage for the house. She consented to the mortgage takeover but only offered 1/3 of the amount I requested, citing her contribution to the house's construction. The thing is, I did not cause this circumstance. I'm not guilty, and I need a place to live. 1/3 of the sum I want will not help me buy a flat, so the discussion between our attorneys continues. She's offering me such a low price because she wants to keep the house. However, the last time we spoke, I learnt that she may be forced to sell it. This is what she should have done since the beginning. She'll be unable to pay both the mortgage and me. We'll see how it goes. Other financial issues, such as child support, are also up for debate. She wants too much, and it must be agreed upon. She also argues that I should be the one to pick up the children from the little town and drive them home. By the end of the weekend, there will have been a lot of fuel and time spent. It should be her dropping them off and me driving them home. As you can see, she is responsible for everything, but she is also willing to argue about the conditions of the divorce. Her sister invited me to attend her daughter's communion last Sunday. I went to spend more time with my boys. Every family member is aware that my decision is definite, therefore they did not even attempt to talk to me about it. I basically took care of my boys while everyone else drank and ate at the table following the ceremony. However, at one point my wife questioned whether my decision was completely final. I glanced at her and said as gently as I could, "Yes, it is final, and nothing will change it. I'm here now for my guys, to spend as much time with them as possible." However, she went on to express her genuine shame and regret for what she had done. She informed me she stopped her relationship with the AP by going to an exorcist, telling him everything about the affair, and then leaving it in God's hands. To that, I said that I don't care about her priest, and if there's anyone she should be telling everything to, it's me. At that point, it was just ludicrous, but I said, "Okay, if you're truly sorry, I'm here to give you one last chance to tell me the whole truth. Tell me how often you had sex with him." She said that she didn't. Then I asked her, "Do you remember that party you held with your work pals in November? Why did you rent a flat for the night, Airbnb, instead of staying at one of your friends' apartments?" After hearing it, she went paralyzed and couldn't say anything except, "Why do you need to keep torturing yourself with it?" I stated that if she was truly sorry, she would stop lying 2 months after I left her. This was just one example. I told her having sex over video chat is the same, and I knew she did it with him. She could not remember how many times she had done it with the AP. After that, I asked her, "How do you picture getting back together? You start a conversation with me, then lie the next second. Do you realize I'll be checking your phone every day? What are your thoughts about that?" She responded, "That would not be trust. It would simply be treating me as rubbish." Then our son intervened, and the conversation was nearing its end. I ended with, "Remember, you didn't just cheat on me. You also cheated on our 2 adorable, wonderful boys." It ruined her. She began shrieking that this was the last time I told her something like that in front of our children. It's interesting because her sister has told me that my wife is hurting and crying every day as a result of all of this. It's a true two-faced woman, sobbing in front of her family while lying to me. She even stated that if she wished, she would join the AP and her family. I couldn't do anything about it, as if I should be grateful that she broke up with him and is now in control of not being with him. So come on. I think I'm simply venting at this point and keeping you updated. Thank you all for your support. I'll be strong and end this mess one day. I believe my boys will want psychological assistance if things do not turn out nicely. The older one has been scared lately, but I will always be there for them. Update 7. Our attorneys finally reached a deal, and the divorce will take place shortly. She has taken over the unfinished house and is now solely responsible for the mortgage. The house is for the kids, and I don't want anyone to tell me later that I sold it as part of my revenge on her. Furthermore, I don't want to live in her small hamlet, which is an hour away from the capital city where I am currently. However, I am receiving what I put into it, and that amount is not awful at all. The child support amount is reasonable, and we agreed that she will drop the kids off to my residence in the capital city every other weekend. I'll just need to drive them back. Now, I see my children virtually every weekend, but it's not enough for me. It causes me so much anguish that I can't take it sometimes. I simply cannot allow 1 and 3-year-old boys to grow up without a father because of an unruly mother. I only wish I could have them, but it's not feasible due to Polish laws. I'll have to start driving there in the middle of the week or something to get by. As for her, she keeps texting me that she loves me, wishes she could go back in time, and is suffering as a result of her actions each day. She softened to the point that she told me that she no longer considers checking her phone to be treating her as garbage. She agreed and said I could do it all the time. She also said we may transfer from the tiny village to the main metropolis. She pledged to tell me everything about the affair, every detail, if I would accept her back. She came to see my parents and apologized. Something must have changed, or someone must have informed her of something. She's now eager to do anything and even displaying some guilt. The last time she messaged me, she said, "Thank you for not selling the house and ending the relationship amicably. Accepting the divorce is synonymous with agreeing to your terms. I'll have to agree in court, but let me assure you that it won't be true. I do not want this divorce, and I adore you. I know you don't believe it and I understand, but I want you to know that I hope to have the opportunity to prove my love to you someday. I adore you and am sorry for everything. There are no words to explain how much I regret everything. Things like those sway me and hinder the healing process. I'd be lying if I said her remarks didn't affect me. The idea of my boys growing up in the capital city rather than the tiny town is appealing. I know she struggles with being alone with 2 tiny boys, but she cheated and wrecked everything. I expected it to grow better with time, but the wound healed quite slowly. I shall remain the course. I'll end this. I'll update one day, maybe when I'm finally happy. What are your thoughts? Do you believe my wife is sincerely sorry? She only agreed to tell me about her infidelity after I stated I might come back, not right away. She didn't offer to let me check her phone immediately. She did not immediately volunteer to go to the metropolis from the tiny village. It took 3 months for her to demonstrate contrition. When she apologizes, she doesn't even contact or visit me. She does it over Messenger. Her entire family has now sided with her. Her mother calls me a narcissist, and her sister claims that I only want to profit from the divorce and leave a lady with 2 young sons. I paid a brief visit to my children yesterday, and she invited me to spend the night. Naturally, I left. I'd appreciate any insight. Update 8. D-Day was April 7th, and here's how I feel after nearly half a year. In such complex scenarios, the same questions must be answered on a daily basis. In my case, the question is if I still love her. Could I go back to her solely for the children? Do I want to return to her little village to complete building the house? Would I be okay with myself in 5 to 10 years knowing what she had done? The answer to all of the inquiries is a resounding negative at this point. That is it. Yes, I adore my children and wish I could spend every day with them, but I cannot. I want to love her, but I can't. Even though she wants me back. I wish I could have that family back, but I cannot. I want to forget everything, but I can't. I even gave her a second chance, which included moving to my city with the kids to begin a new life. She didn't even agree, telling me that she has her family's assistance in the little town and will not sell the house since she wants our children to have something in the future. When I informed her that family isn't the silly building, but a mother, father, and children, she just shut up. This is when I realized there is no longer a us. There is no mutual agreement or middle ground in this. I mentioned that I would not continue living in the tiny town because that is where the affair began. He observed her driving down the street and phoned her. I went on to say that I will not finish building a house 1 mile away from her AP's family home, and that I will not spend another day of my life worrying about meeting him someday. He lives abroad but pays 2 to 3 visits to his family each year. The conversation then ended. I despise the little town. She does not wish to live in the capital, that is it. Here's an example of how she approaches things. We agreed that I would take the money I put into the house and she would keep the building for the children. She now has an issue with this because there is a clause in the agreement that specifies she cannot sell the house until the children reach 18, adults in Poland. Otherwise, she will have to divide the money she would receive from selling the house evenly between herself and me. She believes this is unjust because she intends to build the house with her own money, and if it is sold, I would receive half of the proceeds from a far more expensive finished house. When I asked her why she would consider selling it, she explained that she cannot anticipate what her life will be like. I can't trust her at this point, so I'm considering just selling the building. I can't bear the thought of selling the house I bought for my children. Update 9. She sent me a message today asking for a response to her question. I'm asking you online because if I were to do it in person, we'd just shout at each other. You've told me who I am and what I've done, and you don't want to talk about it anymore. After all of this, do you want to forgive me, put the past behind you and start over with your family, or do you already know you don't and will never be able to forgive me, and you'll never return to us? Please think about it and let me know if you want our marriage back. What does this mean? I don't think she's in a position to demand that I be so detailed right now. I believe there is another person involved, and she wants to discuss the problem with me. I replied, I'm worth more than a messenger conversation, and we'll talk soon. I chatted to her. I laid forth my only 2 conditions for this marriage to last. Move to the capital city and cut all links with the AP and his family. The second is obvious to her, but the first is an insurmountable impediment. She apologizes for her actions, but she refuses to relocate to Warsaw because we will never be able to afford a magnificent large house there, and even tiny apartments are prohibitively expensive to rent. She claims that our children have it easy in the tiny town. She just pays the bills for the flat she presently resides in because it is her father's property. In Warsaw, she would have to spend 4 to 5 times more for a smaller flat, bills and rent. She also has enough friends and family to visit with the kids after work. That is all true. I see the children are pleased, and it is handy for her. She claimed if we moved, only I would be thrilled about it. It would boost my ego. It's just a bad scenario since she's right. Her sister owns the small town's kindergarten, which we pay nearly nothing for. She simply put me in an impossible scenario to solve. Situation. I hold my ground. I will not live in the little town, but it does not make sense for them to relocate. In this scenario, we agreed that I would simply continue to visit and spend as much time as possible with the children. I will continue to take them to Warsaw every other weekend. She informed me she will not date anyone else and will only wait for me, and that I will see for myself in the future, that she will remain single. I find it difficult to believe, but I don't really care. Maybe it's good since the kids will just have me as a father figure, rather than some random guy. During our chat, she said several things that demonstrated that she is not a remorseful person. When I asked why she hadn't phoned me once during our separation and had just texted me, she stated she didn't have time with 2 kids running around the house. She stated that she will never discuss the affair again and will not provide me with any other information if I inquire. She is done with it and will not discuss anything else with me because I informed her family some information she did not want me to share with them. She informed me that the AP had been writing to her for many years and that she had always rejected him, but when he wrote last year, she chose to start an affair with him due to my passive approach. I immediately told her what she said was very horrible, and she rolled her eyes and said, "You're only thinking about yourself. You are the only poor guy in this." Update 10. I've learned to live alone with little time with my children, and now I want to date again. Actually, I began using dating apps some time ago. I get a good number of matches, and arranging up a date with a nice woman is no problem. In general, I had 2 to 3 short-term relationships that had to terminate since I was always busy with the kids when they wanted to meet. Every other weekend is completely off, although I wish they were longer. I always lied about having a meeting or whatever, and they saw it as a lack of interest on my part. The trouble is, how can I navigate this? For the time being, I don't tell new girls that I'm almost divorced with 2 children. I discovered that the only way for the second or third date to occur is to avoid exposing this too soon. Is there a solution to this? Is there any chance a girl would stick with me if I gave her the truth from the start? Has anyone experienced a similar situation? I don't necessarily want to be in a serious relationship right now, but I hope to be in one in the future. My fiancé demanded I put his family first, even at the cost of my sister's health. Now I'm reconsidering everything. Original post, October 25, 2023. Throwaway as my work friends are on my main and they don't know this is going on. Also, it is obligatory that this is on mobile, so spelling and grammar will be poor. This is a long one, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I, 28F, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, Rob, 29M, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. His brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't get here for that meal, so we decided to have a meal just for his family in late June when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kim, 32F, got a serious eye infection that very quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at a high risk of a perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have it. However, her eye didn't hold and it perforated the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with ours brother. Kim's wife was at work and had her phone turned off, and our mom was away with our stepdad. So when Kim called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at the hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss and he let me go early so Kim wasn't on her own. I texted Rob to let him know what was going on, and he texted me back to send Kim his love and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored the comment about the meal as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I got to the hospital, I was taken back into a room where Kim was, to be greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses rushing around trying to help Kim. I was then informed that she needed to have an emergency operation to have her eye glued or else she would lose it. The problem was that they didn't have a surgeon at that hospital that could do it, and she needed to go to another hospital an hour and a half away. They asked if she would need transportation or if I could take her. I said I would take her. Once we got to the other hospital, we were told that she would be having the operation at 5:30 p.m. I knew then that I wouldn't make dinner and text Rob to let him know. He flipped out and basically told me to leave Kim at the hospital and have her wife pick her up after the op was done. At this point, I still hadn't been able to get a hold of Kim's wife. I told him that wasn't going to happen and that he was out of order to even ask me to do that. I then texted his mom and told her what was going on. She was really supportive and told me to stay with Kim and let her know how the op goes. A dinner can be rescheduled, Kim's health can't. I also spoke with his brother, who was equally understanding. I stayed with Kim, her operation was a success, and I got her back home about 9 p.m. Her wife had ordered some Chinese and offered me some, which I happily accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. With that, I didn't get home till about 11 p.m. and Rob was already asleep. Rob was very short with me for days after, and we ended up having a huge fight where he told me that I should have put his brother and family before Kim. He said he was embarrassed to go to the meal without me. I responded that I was embarrassed he thought I would put a meal before my sister's health. This led to another week of awkwardness between us before we finally sat down and we sorted it out. Or so I thought. 8 weeks ago, Kim got her graft, and so far everything is going really well with it. On Saturday, his brother was here, so we went out for dinner with his family. His family were all asking about how Kim was doing, and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. I thought that everything had gone really well until we got home, and he got really angry, saying that I shouldn't have brought up Kim's health issues and I shouldn't have shown them the picture. I argued that they'd asked about her and asked to see the picture. It ended with him telling me that I needed to put him and his family before Kim or else we weren't going to work. His family will come before mine once we are married, so I should get used to it. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I'm now at my mom's house and he's been bombarding me with texts and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never put his family above my own family's health. I feel like he's expecting me to spend every holiday with his family and put their wants above my family needs, which won't happen. I'm very close to my sister and my mom, that's not going to change. So I don't really know how to move forward or if I even want to. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? TLDR. My fiancé got mad that I missed dinner with his family because my sister needed emergency surgery and I was the only one available to take her. He is now insisting that I put his family before my own. I don't know how to move forward with him. Edit. For some reason it won't let me do a full update post even on my own page, so I'm just going to add it to here. Thank you so much for everyone that commented. I replied to as many as I could, but I read all of them. Warning, this is going to be longer than the original post. A lot has happened. TLDR. For those that just want a quick update, I left him and he's out of my house. His mum is seriously pissed at him and his brother has gone no contact with him for the foreseeable future. For those that want a longer version. Once I decided to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I own the house outright. My grandma died 5 years ago and left her house to my mum, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I then bought my house with that money about a year after she died. I got in touch with my stepdad's friend, who was a landlord the day after I wrote my original post, who then put me in touch with his solicitor. He didn't have time to see me in person that day, but we did have a phone call where he gave me my options. In the UK we have something called a Section 8 notice. This is a 14-day eviction notice and the solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out, however he could try and contest it if he wanted to, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draw up the notice and date it for Friday, the next day. I'd already made the decision to end things with him after work on Friday, so that he could have the weekend to sort through his emotions before work on Monday. On Friday morning I texted Rob and asked him to meet with me at our local pub after work. He quickly agreed. Not only is the pub a public space, but my stepdad and a few of his work friends go in there every Friday after work for a few pints, so I knew he would be there to step in if I needed him. Thank you for suggesting this, Redditors. I also picked up the eviction notice on my lunch break, so I was ready to give it to him. Cost £250 but was worth it. When I got to the pub, Rob was already there and my stepdad was standing at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with Rob and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over. I couldn't be with someone who didn't give me any support when I was going through one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to drop my family for him. It didn't matter what excuses he could come up with. I wasn't interested. I'd made up my mind and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour but was probably only a minute or so. He then started saying I couldn't be serious. We'd been together for 7 years and I was throwing it all away. I could never find another guy like him. I responded to the last comment with, I don't want a guy like you. That's why I'm ending it. I need someone who will support me when times get tough, not get annoyed that the world isn't bowing down to what he wants. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice in and my engagement ring. I told him I was giving him a few weeks to find a place and be out of my house. Then I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking in shock. I knew he wouldn't approach me whilst I was with my stepdad, as he has always been a little scared of him. This is obviously a very condensed version of what happened. Once I got back to my mum's house, I had one single text from him saying he wasn't moving out and was going to contest the eviction until I'd come to my senses and got back with him. We are not over, was how he ended the text. I just turned my phone off and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. Saturday morning I woke up and turned my phone back on and had another text from him saying that he would move out if I paid him £10,000, as that's what he'd paid towards bills whilst he had lived at the house. He paid for half the electric, gas, Wi-Fi and Sky package. Note, the Sky package is only as expensive as it is because he has to have every sports channel known to man, so his half literally just paid for the sports channels. I'd already asked the solicitor about this though, and he'd assured me that I didn't owe him any money as he hadn't contributed to a mortgage or any renovations of the house. It was just general expenses. He also knew that I don't have £10,000 just lying around. Let's say I was irritated by this and decided to ring his mum to see if she could talk some sense into him. I'll call his mum Sandra to make it easier. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would speak to him. She called me back about an hour later and asked me to meet her at the house. Rob was on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back till about 10 p.m., so I knew he wasn't there. I met her at the house with Kim, and Sandra said that Rob's brother was on his way back home and they would have Rob out by the following afternoon. She hadn't even spoken to Rob, just his brother, but she promised he would be out. Sandra then asked me to walk her through the house, showing her exactly what was his and what wasn't, so he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him. The next morning I got a text from Rob calling me all the names under the sun for getting his mom and brother involved. I blocked him, and a couple of hours later, Sandra texted me to let me know he was out and staying with her. I thanked her and she told me that she would like to stay in contact and I happily agreed to this. I went back to my house after work on Monday, changed the alarm code and my stepdad changed all the locks for me. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house. This will be done over the weekend. Sandra rang me on Tuesday asking if we could meet up as she had some things she wanted me to know. So we met for lunch that day. It was at this time that she told me her ex was a controlling a-hole who was incredibly selfish and the selfishness was what she had seen in Rob for so long. That's why she had commented on him being like his father, but she had hoped that was the extent of Rob's attitude and he hadn't picked up his dad's controlling behavior, which to be fair, he hadn't up until this whole episode. She had left Rob's dad after he had punched Rob's brother in the face when he was 14 and Rob was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, but one time was enough and she left with the boys. To her knowledge, her ex had never reached out to speak to Rob or his brother and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I didn't know any of this. All I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture and hadn't been for a long time, but Sandra had thought I knew and that's why she hadn't told me before. However, she had found out on Sunday night that Rob was back in contact with his father and had been for the past year. His dad had been putting lots of thoughts into Rob's head about how he is the man of the house and his family is all that matters. This had fed into Rob's selfish tendencies and had amplified them tenfold. Sandra said that she had told him to find somewhere else to stay ASAP as she couldn't even look him in the face. Then Rob and his brother had a huge argument that ended with his brother telling him that as long as Rob is in touch with their dad, then he will have zero contact with him. Even going so far as to tell him to spend Christmas with their dad because Sandra is going to his house and Rob isn't welcome. When Sandra took Rob's brother's side in all this, Rob flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. He then left the house, but came back a couple of hours later looking like he'd been crying. Turns out that his dad doesn't want him living with him and basically said he could be on the streets for all he cares. He's not putting a roof over a grown man's head. Sandra thinks that Rob is now starting to realize everything he has lost due to him listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. Sandra is incredibly disappointed in him, but he's her son so she is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out as she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still won't have anything to do with him. She has also told him to stay the hell away from me as I don't need to be brought into this and he has promised her that he will. Only time will tell if that's true, but I do have him blocked on everything and if he turns up at the house I will just call the police to get rid of him. The more Sandra told me about what had been going on behind my back, the more resolute I became about wanting nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again, if I can help it. So all in all, Rob's life is a shit show, but as long as he stays away from me then I don't care. I've been spending a lot of time with my sister and her wife as well and my mom and stepdad, which has been great. I've never really been close to my stepdad, but this has brought us a lot closer together, which has been one huge positive out of all this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I'll get there. There's still a lot of feelings that I need to unpack and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to really get over all this and don't want to dump this on anyone else right now. For all those asking how Kim is doing, she's doing great. Had a hospital appointment on Monday and her consultant said her eye is healing, in his words, marvelously. So that's a relief. Thank you to everyone that reached out to me. I hope there won't be any need to update this again, so this should be my final update. For telling my ex that it's not my fault that he's homeless. November 26, 2023. So I 28 have posted on relationship advice before about my now ex 29M. The post and update is in my profile, but basically my ex-fiancé wanted me to put his family before mine even at the cost of my sister's health. I ended up breaking up with him over it and he was forced to move in with his mom, who then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad who was twisting his view on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely NC with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I'll call my ex Rob and ex-mom Sandra to make things easier. I hadn't heard from Rob in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had the chain on my door so opened it with that still attached, no way would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mom isn't speaking to him and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head, his words not mine. He asked if I would take him back or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him, and getting him out the first time only went easy because his mom stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court knowing that if he did it could take months to get him out, and then said he would only move if I gave him £10,000. I contacted his mom, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends and managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer her other son. She and Rob had a huge argument about this and she finally kicked him out. Since then he's been couch surfing, but with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for them, and that I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up, but they said they would but don't have room, and if they had a spare room like me then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So Reddit, Aida? Edit. Just a quick edit as I'm going to bed. I've just spoken with the wife of one of Rob's friends and she's asked to meet me on my lunch break tomorrow. Apparently, Rob stayed with them for 2 nights before she kicked him out, and there's more going on than what I know of. She's going to tell me the full story tomorrow, but told me that I shouldn't let him anywhere near me and that he's staying in A and B so he does at least have a roof over his head right now. I'll try to update after I've spoken to her. Update, November 27th, 2023. So I posted yesterday about my ex turning up at my house wanting me to let him move back in with me. I said no, but a couple of friends thought I should let him and that messed with my head. Rob is my ex. A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that and changed my alarm code, as well as my stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to meet with one of Rob's friends' wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative for sure. I'll call her Nat, 30F, and her husband Zach, 29M. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my co-workers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring Rob with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, Nat was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. Rob rang Zach on Thursday morning saying he had nowhere to go and could he stay with them for a few days. Zach spoke to Nat and they agreed he could stay in their guest room. Rob went to their house after work and they had a long talk where Rob told them he has a flat lined up, but can't move in till January. Zach and Nat agreed to let him live with them until January as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like, no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking he had to be quiet when he got back so he didn't wake their daughter who's 6. He agreed to all this and paid for a Chinese for them all that night. The next day after work Rob went to meet his dad in the pub for a few pints. When Zach and Nat went to bed Rob still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by Rob arguing with a woman. Apparently, Rob had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Zach and Nat's house, got his pleasure and then told her to get dressed and fuck off once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where Rob was saying some horrific shit to her. Nat took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, while Zach stayed upstairs arguing with Rob. Once Nat had got rid of the woman she went back upstairs and tried to calm Zach and Rob down. At this point Rob decided to take out his frustrations on Nat, calling her a bitch and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich before bursting out laughing like he'd made the funniest joke ever. This made Zach lose it and pinned Rob to the wall by his throat. Side note, Rob isn't a fighter at all, whereas Zach was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. Nat managed to get Zach to let him go and Rob was shoved in the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that Nat's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning Nat got their daughter ready and went to her mom's after telling Zach to get Rob out of their house. Zach agreed, and after Nat left he woke Rob up and told him to pack his shit and leave. Rob tried to apologize and begged to stay, but Zach was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday Zach texted Rob to meet up so that they could speak and they met up in a pub. Zach has been friends with Rob since they were 11 and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of Rob. Basically, Rob has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand and foot as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into R's ear and it's really taken a hold of him. Zach told Nat that he just doesn't recognize Rob anymore. Rob wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he should. When Zach pointed out that Rob's dad is 62, living in a shitty one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since R's mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub people finish their pants so they can leave and get away from him, Rob was furious. He told Zach that his dad is just misunderstood. Zach responded that people understood his dad and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation and Rob left. Zach did find out that Rob does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true and that he's found Airbnb he can stay until the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Zach and Nat have also decided to go NC with Rob as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like Rob was on drugs, so I asked Nat what she thought and she doesn't think so but can't be sure. She and Zach think that Rob is just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that Rob has a burner IG account that he is using to check on my IG and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents when I couldn't even help him out with Zach on Sunday. I'd been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pics on IG. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feelings for him anymore other than frustration at how he's acting and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked Nat for the info and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with Rob, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen Rob's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors that told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they're part of the friend group and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently with my sisters and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend, so I will be on and off for the next few hours if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the votes and giving me some perspective. Reddit isn't all bad. For anyone that's still around. December 19th, 2023. Still have people reaching out to see if I'm okay. A few hated me just using initials, so R is Rob. I really hoped that I wouldn't have to update again, but I've just had a call from one of Rob's friends and it looks like he's going to be spending Christmas in prison. Apparently, he went out on Saturday night with his dad and they got into an argument which turned physical. Rob isn't a fighter, however he is bigger and stronger than his dad and it ended with his dad falling backwards and hitting his head off a wall, knocking him unconscious. The staff in the pub called the police and an ambulance, but Rob left before they got there. Rob's dad had to go to hospital, where he still is. I'm unsure of his exact injuries, but they're not life-threatening. He must also be awake as he is pressing charges against Rob, however they won't keep him in unless absolutely essential at this time of year. Rob was arrested on Sunday morning at the B&B he's been staying at and had to appear in magistrate's court on Monday. Due to him not having a fixed address right now and the fact that his dad is still in hospital, he has been remanded on a Section 18 with intent. Unless he can find a permanent address to go to, then he won't be getting out until his trial at Crown Court. I know his mum is already with his brothers over 250 miles away, so I don't think she will be able to help right now. Finding this out has actually given me a sense of peace right now. I've been trying to ignore it, but the chance of him turning up and spoiling Christmas has been at the back of my mind ever since he turned up at my house. I'm hoping he stays in over Christmas so that I can just relax. OOP on Section 18 in her area. OOP, Section 18 is an assault charge. A Section 18 with intent is the next level up and is classed as intending to and causing grievous bodily harm to someone. I've been told that if found guilty, then it's usually a multiple-year prison sentence. Another mini update. December 23, 2023. I went round to N&Z, hereby known as Nat and Zach, to drop off a present for their daughter, a bottle of Bell's for Zach and a bottle of Prosecco for Nat for Christmas, and had a cup of tea with them whilst they filled me in on what's going on. Rob will be in over Christmas, but will likely get out early January. His lawyer is trying to get the charges reduced from Section 18 with intent to a Section 20. I only found out today that a Section 18 with intent is one step down from attempted murder and you're looking at double digits in prison if you get found guilty. Section 20 is a lot less severe and is usually a 2-year suspended sentence for first-time offenders, which he is. His lawyer has said that if he pleads guilty to Section 20 then CPS will lower the charges to get this one over and done with ASAP, as the courts are ridiculously backed up in the UK right now and prisons are full. Zach went to the B&B he was staying at and got Rob's stuff, which is now sitting in his garage as one last favor to Rob, Zach's words. He can't get in touch with me without my consent whilst he is locked away. The prison literally has to ring me and ask if it is okay that I get put on his approved call list, and only then is he allowed to ring me, which won't be happening. I've also spoken to his mom, who has basically washed her hand of him for the time being. She thinks that he needs to learn his lesson, and maybe spending Christmas in a cell will teach him how much he's lost the plot. She has spoken to him and said that he's now saying the right things, but only time will tell if he means them. He is talking about moving to be near his brother to get away from their dad, so maybe he has seen the light. His brother has refused to go onto his call list, so Rob can't contact him, so I don't know how that will work. As for his dad, he is still in hospital with a broken hip and has had to have surgery to fix it. The broken bone and head injury is why the charges are so high right now. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, knowing he can't ruin my Christmas. I'm just about to pack everything into the car and go and stay at my mom's until January 2nd, but thought I'd finish the year off letting everyone who's helped me and supported me through this know what's going on. Merry Christmas to everyone that celebrates it, and hope everyone is doing well. Final update, April 13th, 2024. Hi all, sorry it's been a while since my last update, but I wanted everything to be finished before I updated again. Rob spent Christmas on remand in prison. He didn't get out until the second week of January, and that was only because his mum agreed to let him stay with her again. He had his plea hearing the first week of February, where he pleaded guilty to a Section 20 assault. He then had to wait until last week to get his sentencing court date. I didn't know how much actually goes into sentencing. They had to get a victim impact statement, a pre-sentencing report from probation, statements from his mum and brother. His barrister even reached out to me to give a statement saying that we had broken up and I'd asked him to leave the house. He used our breakup as an extenuating circumstance, saying that because of the breakup of our relationship and him losing his home, that had seriously impacted his mental health. The statements from his mom and brother also confirmed that he had lived in an abusive home when he was young, so he claimed he had PTSD because of that. These were all read out at his sentencing. He was going to get 3 years, but the judge knocked time off for pleading guilty and for mitigating circumstances. That left him with a 16-month sentence that was suspended for 18 months. As part of the conditions for his release, he isn't allowed anywhere near his dad, he has to go to counseling for his supposed PTSD, and he isn't allowed to drink alcohol. He even has an ankle monitor that tests his sweat every half an hour for alcohol and will alert probation if he gets a positive result. Luckily for him, his boss has let him go and work at their main location in the city that's half an hour away from here, and probation was happy for him to live there as well. He moved into a flat there this week, so I don't have to worry about running into him. I haven't spoken to him at all, and I don't want to either. He has tried reaching out through a couple of friends, but they've respected my decision and told him to move on with his life. However, I did speak to his mom yesterday and she said that she thinks he's depressed, but so far he's doing okay. She's the one I got all of this information from. It's a strange mix of emotion for me towards him, as I still care on some level, just not enough to keep him in my life. I know I need to keep him away from me, as I can never see him like I did at this time last year. It's crazy to think that it's only been a year since we got engaged. So much has happened. Other than those mixed emotions, I'm doing well. I've been hanging out with my sister and her wife a lot more, as well as catching up with friends. I'm still working at the same place and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the people asking about my sister, she's doing good. She had a setback last month, but she seems to be over that now and has just been approved to have some form of newish stem cell treatment at the UK's biggest eye hospital. Which is fab news. She tried to explain it to me, but it involved them taking her blood and putting it into her eye, which grossed me out, so I told her to stop. However, because she's my sister, she then sent me pictures of what they do, and Mum had to step in and tell her to stop. No matter how old we get, I don't think we will ever stop trying to annoy each other. So all in all, I think we're all moving on with life. Unless something big happens, then this should be my last post. I really want to thank everyone for their kind words and support. This has restored my faith that there are still good people out there. New update, June 30th, 2024, 2 months later. Hi all, I really hoped I wouldn't have to come back, but I've had several DMs on this account saying that a TikTok video is claiming that I'm back with my ex. I don't have TikTok, so I haven't seen it, but that's 100% not true. I haven't seen or spoken to him since my last update. As far as I'm aware, he's still living in the city half an hour away and is doing okay. I'm not really interested, to be honest. Rob's mom has accepted an offer on her house and has moved in with his brother until she can finalize the purchase of her house and find a flat she likes. Everyone else is doing well. My sister is the same and her eye is still healing. She's got some new glasses and says her vision is now nearly back to normal, so that's good. My sister and 7 other family and friends went out to Germany for England's first game, which was a lot of fun. Other than that, I've just been working and finding my new normal. Please don't listen to anything said about this on TikTok, YouTube, or anywhere else. I will not be getting back with Rob. That ship has sailed off the edge of a cliff. Relevant comments. Has Rob reached out to OOP? OOP. He was informed that I didn't want to speak to him and wanted to be left alone, and he respected that, thankfully. I just want us both to move on now. Am I the asshole for hating my older daughter for throwing a forbidden party that led to my younger daughter was assaulted by 4 men? First of all, I am a widow with 3 children, but in this essay I will be more focused on Leah, 14, and Maya, 18. 4 guys back in December sexually assaulted Leah. Maya organized a party when I was working the night shift, and 4 of the lads that were there attacked Leah. Said the least, it has been terrible. Leah quit cheering and has lost all of her energy. She also chose to skip her first year by just finishing her classes online. She only wears my late husband's hoodies all day and sleeps in my room now, with me. As a mother, I feel so powerless as I have no idea how I could support her. Many facts came out about Maya's involvement in this over the research. She did not set up her little sister, but I believe she mistreated her greatly. All of this might have been avoided if she only followed my guidelines. I never approved of a party. Before you people argue, well, you're her mother, it's not her job to watch your kid. The issue is, it was her job. She left Leah under supervision. To look after her sister while I work evenings, I pay her really nicely. We had reached an arrangement years ago. Leah is not in any sense special needs. Maya just asked that she make sure her sister finishes her schoolwork and gets to bed at a respectable time. Maya herself invited the guys that attacked Leah. She knew personally that they belonged to gangs and that she had no concern. Rather, what I discovered in this research is Leah was not interested when she sought to be with one of these boys. Trying to entice Leah to kiss him, this lad was pestering her all night. Leah got enough and headed to her room. That same boy and his buddies went up to my daughter's room and sexually assaulted her after Maya left the house to visit McDonald's. The worst aspect of this is that partygoers assumed a couple was fighting upstairs when she started screaming and did nothing. Not knowing what transpired till the party ended the next morning. For her, and most likely the worst experience as a parent, having her do a rape kit traumatizing her. She tested positive for a treatable STD several weeks later as well. Ever since, my baby has been somewhat broken. Leah finds it quite difficult right now, even if they did acquire those males, and all 4 entered a guilty plea since they had evidence on their phones. Maya has been regretful, on the other side, and Leah has no resentment toward her and does not hold her responsible. She still adores her sister. I'm not sure why though. I've been really trying to forgive Maya, but I can't. I am so furious at her. I can't even look at her right now without wishing to snap. Her prom falls next weekend. I really couldn't give a damn less. She approaches me to have talks, but I find it difficult to express any enthusiasm in them. I love my kid. I do not hate her right now. Only I have a deep detest for her. I have been reading self-help books in search of appropriate ways to handle this. I feel as though in life I cannot be honest with anyone about this. As a mother, I suppose this may be a call for help. Edit. I value all of your comments. Maya still watches Leah, which is the most often asked question I'm seeing. Hell no is the response here. I no longer trust her. It may take years to recover. Right now I'm on a break. Leah is not in treatment either right now. She told me she wouldn't be ready for it. She might be amenable to it once the sentence is over. Maya is in therapy as well, but she misses many of the visits. I'm in therapy as well, and it has helped me not want to snap at Maya and stay cool under pressure. Sending Maya to my parents' house for a little while to gain some separation from her is the one piece of advice I am most strongly contemplating though. Sorry, fast second edit. To my understanding, Maya isn't in a gang, for the people wondering about that. Her most I have seen is smoking some cannabis and vaping. I'm also leaning toward Maya really being plain negligent that night, since I also don't want to believe Maya would ever set her sister to be brutally attacked. Furthermore, I believe it would have surfaced in the research if Leah had purposefully set up herself. The other 3 were mature men. The lad Maya was trying to arrange Leah for was 17 at the time. He's 18 today. Update: Maya's arrest the evening Leah attacked was rather straightforward. Her charges were 2 misdemeanors and felony child endangerment. She paid a $2,000 fine, 60 hours of community service, and 3 years of probation. The court was rather friendly to her. I grabbed her car as well. But following this update, I might have ought to have punished her more severely. Turning now back to the update, TLDR at the bottom Thursday afternoon Maya and I got into a fight. Leah came to me virtually agitated and on the edge of tears after 5 people messaged her that day offering sympathies for her attack. Leah has been quite clear, she wants nobody she knows to know she was attacked. After more research, it comes out Maya told a group chat of 27 individuals Leah was the victim. Leah told me she feels ashamed and she can never return to school next year. I naturally then went to confront Maya about it. I was overreacting, she insisted, and Leah was acting dramatically. She did not see the problem when I tried to use reason to explain how she mistreated her sister. She interrupted mid-lecture and exclaimed, "Jesus Christ, Mom, you need to let her deal with this instead of always leaping to her defense. Leah is not unique among women everywhere who experience rape. At least they don't define their personality like she does entirely. She's fine as well." Last night, I actually listened in on her on the phone chatting to a lad. It suddenly clicked for me at that instant when I saw her mask slip and she was not really regretful at all. I answered, "Pack your," saying she would be living with my parents until I let her back. She did exactly that. However, Maya sent a text to meet her at her therapist session later that day the next morning. Looking back, I wish I had never gone since her therapist only saw her point of view during most of the visit. Maya opened up at the beginning of the appointment apologizing and outlining her reasoning for telling her pals. She was venting, hence she didn't consider it as a major issue since Leah seems good these days and the public case that was in the news is public. Leah lists as a Jane Doe and has no name, but I digress. We then descended into the smallest details of everything. Maya told me in front of the therapist that she feels emotionally abandoned by me and that I never seemed to care about her trauma in the scenario, which for her, meant having to stay in jail for a weekend and losing one of Leah's literal rapist buddies. Though I wish I could be laughing, I am dead serious. We discussed that for 30 minutes first. Given their father is no longer with us, her therapist said I should strive more to be Maya's mother and guilt-tripped me for not being more emotionally present for her. Though I am a terrible parent, I do not want to be emotionally present for Maya if it means supporting her and gassing over the relationship of the person who destroyed her sister's life. Maya has been telling Leah that the therapist was on one, particularly because she continued referring to what occurred to Leah as an accident or stating Leah seems happier these days. Leah actually still scores fairly low on mental health assessments yet is rather physically high on antidepressants. Feel free to skip over the next paragraph if I simply had an outburst since I become quite graphic here and have a major trigger warning. I think it's kind of nasty that the two of you are ignoring Leah's trauma in all of this and keep referring to it as an accident, I told Maya and her therapist. Your sister was in the hospital suffering from something your friend did. You spent a weekend in jail. Ironically enough, if you ever listen to Leah, she has said that your friend was the most hostile toward her throughout the attack and was the source of most of her injuries, including strangling her. So for you both to sit here and criticize me for not caring that you lost your friend due to something horrible your friend did to your sister is just nasty. Right now, my main regret is helping you choose a lawyer. I ought to have let you figure it out for yourself and perish in that jail. At this time Maya began crying in the office, claiming it unfair that I held her responsible for Leah's fate. Leah kept hovering near to her at the party, so she told me the only thing she was attempting to do was get Leah out of her shell. Interjecting suddenly, the therapist asks Maya, "How did Leah respond to you when you apologized?" In such a protective way, Maya responds, "Apologize for what? I did not sexually harass her." When the therapist mentioned it, even she was startled, and at that moment I was startled and at that moment I had heard enough. I got to stand, raise my hands and go. This was Friday afternoon. I haven't seen Maya since then. Maya has been messaging and calling me, pleading to come home so she might apologize to Leah and me, but at this point I'm not sure. I never imagined I would be the parent who would have no contact with my kid, but I'm not sure whether I could live around her. She is not repentant about what happened. I cannot trust her. Part of me wants to try to make it work for Leah since she asked yesterday if she destroyed our family, and it crushed my heart. Leah adores and looks up to Maya. I doubt she can understand at this point that Maya also failed her. I simply find myself caught. Tell me if I'm wrong for not grasping Maya though. I apologize for the not very cheerful update. I should thus say what happened that morning. By now I go home from work at 8:30 a.m., and my house was wrecked and several of Maya's buddies were still there. Of course, I argued with Maya a little regarding party planning. When I checked on Leah later, she was not in her room but her linens were bloody. Maybe it was the time of the month and she was sleeping or washing in my bed. But as I looked about my room, she was nowhere. When I started phoning Leah, her phone did ring. I heard it emanate from my closet. It's a walk-in, and I observed her cocoon-like blanket-covered state. She wasn't awake when I shook her to get her going. When I tried to untuck her, I discovered abrasions around her neck and bleeding on her scalp. I began yelling for someone to dial 911. Leah started crying when she started to sort of wake up in the ambulance. Maya's friend raped her, and she first told me she couldn't get up since she was in so much pain. I honestly didn't care about Maya at that time when the cops and ambulance arrived. I advised her to be truthful with the cops and she ought to be okay. I knew nothing as I know today. They then drove her to the station where the cops questioned her. Leah's medical report revealed what had transpired, hence they chose to accuse her with child endangerment. When they told Maya what happened to Leah, I did not observe her response. I considered it to be a lovely moment nevertheless when she hugged Leah once she was released from jail. From that period, the only red flag that jumps out to me is Maya's partial lack of cooperation about the distribution of the names. She claims she forgot. Fortunately, DNA from Leah and the crime scene, all 4 of Leah's rapists were already in the system for earlier offenses, one even on probation, so they were readily found. Following that was a domino effect. My son is my oldest. He married a month before things fell apart, and I wanted him to savor the honeymoon period with his wife, so I didn't want to draw him in too much about Maya. His wife is quite helpful, and she takes Leah all the time for sleepovers, or just to get her out of the house. Although I know I'm not alone in dealing with this, my daughter F14 has been quite understandably depressed. In 4 years, at her early age, she experienced 2 horrific events. She lost her dad 4 years ago and suffered sexual assault back in December. I recall feeling as though the world was against me when I was 14, with both of my parents on my side and having never experienced an assault. I find it incomprehensible what she is going through right now. I asked her if she was okay when I heard her sobbing in the bathroom this morning. She said promptly she was okay. It just makes me feel so powerless as her mother as I am unable to assist her or alleviate any of her suffering. Since both of my parents are still living and I have never been sexually molested, I cannot even completely identify with her. Since I cannot advise her and assist her with the current circumstances, I feel like I'm a bad mother. As a mother, I believe I should know everything. Unfortunately, I do not. I feel like 99.9% of the time I'm not sure what I'm talking about, hence every time I try to comfort her she most likely wonders, what is this woman talking about? Please leave some useful advice if any other mothers can relate. 3 children of mine are M24, F18, and F14. 4 years ago, COVID claimed the late husband quite unexpectedly. He lacked a will, but our life insurance policy paid a $360,000 death benefit. As his wife, I paid the whole cost. I chose to split the money 4 ways. I would get $120,000 and each of my 3 children would get $80,000. Since my kids were minors at the time, I promised them they could access their whole amount when they reached 18. Still, I would let them utilize some of their portion if they ever wanted to do something expensive. I looked after most of their requirements. I handed my son his portion immediately away as he was over 18. This was a verbal commitment, and I meant to follow through exactly. But recently, my middle daughter, let's call her M, was jailed in December for child endangerment after brutally mistreating her little sister, which resulted in something terrible happening under her care. She left roughly $65,000 after deducting some of her $80,000 for attorney and court fees. Fast forward to now, and my youngest kid is still somewhat challenged. She is on a high dosage of antidepressants and shows quite poor on mental health assessments during her visits. She usually jokes that she would be sent to a psych facility if she told the doctors or us how she really feels. Maya is no longer living with us. She is staying with my parents for now as I felt her presence was causing more damage than benefit to her sister. She has been pleading with me, nevertheless, to have the money I promised once she graduated. I have not been eager to do so. Familiar with the circumstances, my sister thinks Maya doesn't deserve the money and I should use it to keep home longer with my younger son, who will be alone throughout the day once I get back to work. Given my youngest's poor mental health and school being closed, I'm quite concerned about her. Maya is headed to start college, and I know most of the money would go toward that. Still, I am quite furious with Maya for the suffering she brought about for her sister. Making this choice is proving difficult for me. So supposing I retained her inheritance. Edit. Although I wasn't expecting so many comments, I am reading over all of them. I am conflicted since I honestly have no idea what my spouse would say if he were here. Part of me wants to believe he would really say to give Maya the money so she could attend college since he valued education highly. Another side of me too, knows that he would be far more harsh than I am and maybe disown Leah completely if he had known the whole truth about what happened to her. I'm conflicted as it's difficult to project what he would have desired. Update 2. Leah, my 14-year-old daughter, has been battling the fallout from the horrific act she went through last December. For us, this past week has been particularly challenging. Last Tuesday, everything began when a sheriff and another officer paid us a visit. One of the persons in charge of what happened to Leah, the person who videotaped the incident, had uploaded the footage to a group and now it's floating on some dark websites. Recorded in Leah's room, the footage included recognizable artifacts indicating her school attendance. When I heard this, I was crushed. The way Leah responded startled me. She exhibited little emotional expression or tears. She just shrugged and murmured, "I figured," then sat there silently. Although the officials informed us that it is unusual for offenders to come back in these kinds of circumstances, they felt obliged to let us know for safety concerns. Leah returned appearing as though nothing had occurred, almost too happy after they departed. She dodged the subject, although I tried many times to discuss it. This conduct persisted all week until she abruptly said she wanted to read her victim impact statement herself in court instead of allowing the prosecutor to do it. She believed that, lacking a trial, only the charges against those accountable were known, not the whole truth of what she went through. Her comment is a thorough narrative of that terrible night, but she has not been able to read it to me in whole as every time she tries she starts to cry. I only witnessed her really expressing her emotions at that one moment. Leah seemed especially happy all week until Saturday night and noted sleeping early, about 8 p.m. until I got a call from one of Leah's best friend's mother. I gave it little thought. Leah's last message to her daughter, a note expressing love and requesting her to check on her, worried her. Leah had tried to overdose on Zizquil when I hurried to her room. Knowing she would recover as a nurse, it broke my heart to see her waking in the hospital. She shrieked, "Why couldn't you just let me die? Mom, I want to pass. Feeling their hands on me wears me out. I want it to stop now. Please allow me to pass away." To help her relax, they had to knock her out. Leah was then put under a 72-hour psychiatric hold and then moved to a mental health hospital surrounded by peers her age. Leah has been suffering, particularly with a male staff member, maybe a psychiatrist who she claims has been asking intrusive questions about her personal life, making her uncomfortable. The staff advised staying longer than the first hold. Leah seems distant and staff members told me she is not joining in group activities. They even suggested limiting her access to me, but I asked them to hold off on putting such policies into effect. Given Leah's seeming trouble adjusting, I'm not sure if the inpatient environment we have now is appropriate. Her cry for her life to end haunts me still. It is a concept I cannot get rid of. Leah's buddy sent further information Leah had concealed from me. There is a nasty story going around that Leah had voluntarily engaged in something dangerous, and the cops were only involved out of shame. Young people can be rather nasty. Regarding my second daughter, Maya, 18, I haven't chatted with her in 2 weeks. I recently found, though, why Leah feels obligated to her. I discovered unsuitable texts on Leah's phone 2 years ago between her and Maya's ex-boyfriend. Saying Leah was much prettier and that he loved her yet inexperienced, he showed affection for her and even likened her to Maya. Maya was enraged and broke off with me when I told her, but she thought Leah had betrayed her by seeing her boyfriend. Even though Leah was just 12 at the time and her boyfriend was 17. Maya avoided Leah for 3 months following, and even with Leah's apologies, Maya still harbors resentment. Leah feels guilty about hurting their friendship with this episode. I'm sharing this to get it off my plate. I have kept these battles inside our family to guard my girls, but I am tired from always facing fresh difficulties and not sure how to heal them. I now find myself in the challenging role of determining Leah's mental readiness to testify at the sentencing for her abuser, though I wonder if she is in a stable enough position to manage a possibly traumatic occurrence, particularly since these guys genuinely have character witnesses. I worry she will blame me for this decision. Update 3. Additional details regarding the psychiatrist. Leah and I discussed what the psychiatrist said to make her uncomfortable more specifically. She informed me they made her sit down one-on-one to debrief why she was there and what was triggering these ideas when I left. She told him about the attack and opened up to him. But he wanted to know whether this was her sole sexual encounter. Leah answered yes, but he kept challenging her as if he didn't believe her, asking things like, "You can tell me if it wasn't your only experience. I am not going to inform your mother." Leah had to remind him again several times that it was her sole experience. He next inquired about her sexuality and whether she still found guys appealing. Leah claims she does not now give relationships any thought. She said she felt uneasy about him probing her sex life so much when they were alone in a room with the door closed. although the psychiatrist might have been performing his duties. I would not accuse him of being improper. Rather, I believe he ought to have had a female staff member there or probe such issues. Before they met, he ought to have seen her chart. Update 4, back here with a much-awaited update. This runs long. TLDR at the bottom. Though much has happened, I will begin with something encouraging. Leah began treatment following her sentence, and she has been sharing good things about it. She said it was relieving not having to discuss the assault straightforwardly with her therapist. Her therapist recommended some EMDR sessions as well. Her first one is set for next week. Her general doctor advised she start birth control and cleared her to begin cheering once more should she so wish. I'm not sure about it as I know how much it can affect mental health and I want not to undo any advancement. We also moved into our new rental, and I let Leah pick a kitten, her baby. Leah always carries the cat with her, so I hardly see it since we bought it. To aid Leah in her recovery process, we had to toss most of her old furnishings. She used to like the things I used to, but now she wants the minimum color. I was attempting to show her the Pinterest room of her dreams. It is still being worked on. She currently boasts a boyfriend as well. Out on the 4th, he invited her. He is age appropriate, and I have known the child since I grew up with his dad, so I know he comes from a decent home. Leah appears like she could be developing codependency on him, which worries me the only thing. He is on FaceTime with us if he is not at our house. She wants him to tag along every time we go out. This has been happening since he asked her out formally. As Maya moved out, I would say it's been like this. Yet I'm not very concerned as I believe it's only like this now since it's summer and a fresh relationship. She seemed at first to be happy for the occasion. My last post drew a lot of critical comments as I wasn't informing my kid all the specifics or moving quickly enough. Though I almost wanted not to share this, I want to start by noting that I know my children and they know me. Timing is something I respect personally. I wanted to be sure I had facts, not presumptions, before I spoke with my other children. I knew in my heart that I tried my best to make my daughter answerable for her acts. I wanted to arrange a meeting with the detective who questioned Maya to tell him everything. The detective informed me he investigated Maya but lacked sufficient proof when we met. It wasn't enough to accuse her, even with all I told him. So he could only accuse her of child endangerment for leaving a juvenile she was supposed to be supervising in a house with a documented sex offender. He soothed me though, and confirmed what I had thought. He also informed me Leah reportedly spent almost 2 hours being assaulted twice by 2 of the suspects. Maya was arrested as she never went upstairs to see Leah and showed no sympathy during questioning. He also mentioned that he has looked into several similar cases, but this case troubled him since so many onlookers realized something sinister may be occurring but did not act. He told me to bear that in mind. Everyone failed Leah, not only Maya. Before the sentencing, I visited with my son and his wife. More dissatisfied than offended was his attitude. Though he knew something was amiss, he assumed Maya wouldn't act purposefully. My son and daughter-in-law told me they always believed Leah made Maya jealous or threatened. When Leah removed her braces, my son observed that she started to grow into her appearance, drawing greater interest from Maya's friends. Leah was the nice sibling amongst the two. According to my daughter-in-law, she personally saw this during the bridesmaid dress fitting. Maya attacked Leah instead of complimenting her. Maya responded, "I know, that's why I have to humble her." When my daughter-in-law informed Leah that Leah would unlock so much potential once she saw her beauty and ignored her bullies. Though she considered it odd at the time, my daughter-in-law didn't give it much attention until recently. Maya blocked them as soon as I tossed her out too, and today they know why. The sentence was not as harsh as I'd anticipated. Leah admitted she first found it to be dull. Of course, the mothers and fathers of the offenders were the character witnesses. One mother reported that it was a terrible night and that we should stop aggravating additional damage. One dad claimed his kid had been mistreated at Leah's age and that Leah had to have set off something inside him. Leah found nothing impressive about this. She said she ignored them, but I sensed it bothered her. I was so very proud of Leah when she chose to create a video and read her victim impact statement. Leah didn't look at all 4 of the offenders even though they all said apologies to her before the court. She heard them and thought only one was really remorseful. The rest responded robotically. 2 of the offenders were sentenced to 10 years, however they might be released 6 years early. Because of his past offenses, the person who filmed it received 12 years. The prosecutor warned me he might be in there for 20+ years due to a different charge. Leah's friend Maya, who she most worries about, received 14 years. The judge noted that he should complete the whole term and not be paroled as he had past difficulties for something similar. Leah wanted them all to be 14 years, but she was good with their sentences. Should they leave early or should there be parole hearings, she will be informed. My son said Maya was present, but she stayed far back and departed right away when the court adjourned. Leah was particularly disturbed by some of the families of the offenders trying to personally apologize to her and chat with her. Apart from that, she managed it really nicely. We started debriefing everything while we were driving back home, and I tried to explain the next steps. Leah informed me it was strange that one of the offenders called Maya friend when we arrived home, as Maya would not be friends with someone like that. She stated this and my face went white. I realized it was time to tell her. I said, I had been intending to tell you this. I'm not happy with your sister for several different reasons. Leah was still perplexed, so I clarified that Maya was arrested for leaving the house, not for throwing the party. Leah simply said, oh okay, not giving a damn about that. Then I answered, he wasn't lying in front of the courts. Maya went behind your back that evening to attempt to set you two up. Maya was friends with your sister. I then witnessed the flash of insight. Leah first assumed I was lying, but as I continued to speak, it was as though she watched someone's heart break before her eyes. She interrupted me off and remarked, I don't believe you. Maya would never hang around with someone that terrible. She might not have been best friends with him, but she did have some kind of relationship with him, I said. Mom, if that's true, that's really bad, Leah said. None knows how nasty he was to me all day. I had to sit in the courtroom listening to people claim he was a wonderful person, although it is untrue. Why does nobody agree with that? I started apologizing to her at this time, and she grabbed her phone to call Maya. Maya responded with a really happy, hello, and Leah went right to the point, asking whether Maya had ever been friends with her offender. Maya admitted she was friends with him before anything happened, even though I really believed she would lie. Leah then inquired as to whether she was attempting to get her to date him. And Maya answered honestly and positively. Leah hung off on her before Maya could clarify herself. Leah began shaking rather severely while she was tapping on her phone, and I knew she was blocking Maya on everything. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes once she was done and asked, Mom, why does she hate me so much? Whatever I did to her, she still hates me. I have been trying to be her buddy. Why? Over the course of the day we shed tears together. To be honest, Leah told me the next day she had finished with Maya and wanted nothing to do with her for some time. She stated she felt more enraged than depressed after sleeping on it. She opened out to me and that she wrecked her senior year, hence Maya made her feel ashamed. Leah blamed herself for what happened by not being more cautious and not locking the door. Yet, to now discover that she did lock the door and that Maya had far more control of the circumstances than she led Leah to believe makes her very unhappy. Leah then informed me Maya promised she was quitting, but she had a drug issue with Adderall and medications she had agreed to keep secret. When I asked Leah when her drug addiction first started, she stated she was unaware. Nonetheless, she found her pilfering her concerta in April 2023. Maya then came clean on her drug problem. Leah also thinks Maya's dealer was among her attackers since he used to visit the house late at night while I was working. Leah suffers greatly since Maya traded her for more drugs and never quit as she had promised. Leah further related that her assailant claimed during the attack that if she refused to participate, they would harm Maya, which would make her feel worse since she knows Maya wouldn't do the same for her. Although it was a few weeks ago, that was the last time we truly discussed Maya. I know she is suffering greatly. I went crazy and let her get a cat for this reason. Maya has tried to get in touch with Leah many times utilizing text-free numbers even though she is not sure of our new address. Leah exhibits no curiosity at all. Maya has been taken in by my mother-in-law, with whom I have never gotten along, paying for her education and purchasing her a new automobile just to spite me. She is no longer with my parents. She shared it on Facebook, but I wish I were making this up. The dysfunctional aspect is that although my mother-in-law is aware of what happened to Leah and all Maya accomplished, she simply doesn't care. Using their dad as leverage, she called Leah to guilt trip her, saying, your dad would hate to see you fight and hold a grudge against your sister over a mistake. Maya believes Maya is equally a victim as Leah. I stopped talking to her at that point and advised Leah not to answer her going forward. Since my mother-in-law wants to discredit my parenting and harm her other granddaughter by funding Maya's life, I am quite near suing Leah civilly on her behalf. Though I'm so annoyed with the situation, my therapist believes that will not help Leah or me heal. I'm sorry. I'm not doing well and there isn't another ending except that I lost 3 individuals in 4 years. I am quite hopeless. Both of my girls and the love of my life vanished from me. I will never be the same. I still grieve the loss of my small daughter. I also blame myself for not seeing my other daughter in time as I think she is a profoundly defective, dangerous person. I worry about everyone she encounters in her adult years. My wife of 8 years had an affair and shattered me. Now I'm left picking up the pieces, trying to heal and be the best dad I can to our son. I, 31 am still rather devastated over all of this even now after divorce. Having turned in the final divorce decree, I am seated outside the courthouse. Last Wednesday, my cheating lousy wife, 30F, dropped by my office so I could have her sign the final papers. My brother and I manage a store, so we were busy, but I had her come to sign the last paperwork at the back. As I was working on some chores, she read it over. Then I saw she was at the last page staring at it, then at me. Not only peering, she seemed to be begging and had a tiny welling of tears. It was quite frustrating. I advised her not to engage in this garbage and to either sign or not. She opened her lips then closed them once again. Not to pull bullshit like this when she's dating and hooking with other people, I became enraged and instructed her to speak what she had to say. She has not expressed any want to mend our friendship. She signed the forms and left head down. We ended up talking in her car for a second after I had to hunt her down to ask about our stimulus money. She inquired about our son. He's not biologically mine, but I have been there for him since he was 4. Though I try to interact with him every morning, I informed her he doesn't really talk to me anymore. She only nodded and looked dejected. I gently informed her that I was allowing her one chance to speak her truth. She simply stared at me. Furious, I told her she never loved me first of all. She stated it wasn't true, tears running down her face. She wouldn't have considered cheating, I informed her, if she loved me really. Even when other ladies approached me, I had always been loyal. I always turned away as I knew my wife wouldn't enjoy it. I advised her to get in touch with me when she had my money. I wish I had known she didn't love me from the beginning. It would have saved time, effort, and suffering. It is killing me. The hearing scheduled to finish it all is tomorrow. I'm recuperating, rediscovering delight in things I used to enjoy, and loving exercise more. Though I can't seem to find it in me to truly talk to them or try for a date, I'm looking better, getting attention from women, and that's wonderful. Still, my heart longs for her. My heart still loves her. I wish I could take it out and bury it permanently. Though I know I have to go through these emotions and welcome this new life, I'm having trouble. The end of this procedure is surely bringing all these emotions to the forefront. Comments. You did what you were supposed to. You will need time to put this behind you. Her crocodile tears sent her on losing a home base to Monkey Branch. The greatest disrespect is cheating, and it never comes from a place of love. You're better off, time will help you move on. Thank you for your help, I am working on moving on. I have many I just wish ideas to shove aside and let go. OP. You adored someone she used to be. Today she is not that person. Though it is difficult, disconnecting takes time. If anything, I will use this time to heal and appreciate what I do today. It will make me a better person generally. You cannot simply switch off and on your emotions. Never give your morals or standards any concessions. Don't force yourself to start looking for another companion. Be selective and date when you're ready. Let alone offer my body to another woman. I am not looking to enter yet another relationship. The most I'm hurrying is trying to not feel anything for her. As you pointed out, it's a process. Sometimes, oh man, I do want to sacrifice my morals. I want to tell each parent of my son's soccer squad everything about the person she is and email blast all of them. I want to print flyers to plaster her preferred locations and publish it all over Instagram. But none of that is me. I know that person is not who I am. I'm just still hurting and really trying to mend. I greatly appreciate your nice comments and support. They really mean a lot. I understand that it seems so unjust and as if justice does not exist on our planet. Don't jump in the mud with the pigs. You'll get dirty too and be mistaken for a pig. My grandma often advised me. Never treat yourself less than that. While some individuals reject karma, indeed it is quite gradual but also meticulous. She will be revealed one day, or something will transpire to grant her the justice she so deserves. You only have to be loyal to yourself. Your children will also see it. They will know you as the one who did not devalue themselves. Just treat yourself politely. Update 1. Yesterday was that. Here I am today, single and most certainly in shock. Other than having this massive pit in my gut, I'm not sure how I should feel. She understood the timing of the hearing, but I find a Zoom call to the court to be just so impersonal. Of course, I realize, safety comes first. Still, it doesn't particularly feel real. It really hasn't really sunk me. I mean, I can acquire a copy of the signed document and declare myself to be divorced. A couple of my buddies want to know whether I want to go celebrate. They want to be there for me, they are lovely about it. They are not being nasty or resentful. And that feels great. I simply have not known how to approach this. I should be feeling free, Yet maybe I should be crying once more. Oddly enough, I simply want to hear my wife's voice. Unfortunately, I no longer have a wife. Some stranger that sounds like her and wears her face. Though it's only a resigned kind of sensation, I can sense tears gathering. Here I am, simply me. Furthermore, my dog. I have very few friends, but they are the finest. I have a great and fantastic family. Thus, support is discussed. I merely feel empty, exhausted and drained. What should my next action be is unknown. Tell my son that it has happened over the phone. Say F it all, and go to Italy to begin exploring sights. Go back to Vegas with my old buddies for a desert recharging trip. I truly want to be laying here in silence, staring at the ceiling. Naturally though, life has to go on and so should I. I appreciate all of your support and ideas, especially book recommendations. I'm eager to at least start since I'm picking those up today. I never imagined myself in this place. Notes. Italy's timing is horrible, but whenever it becomes sensible, that has my enthusiastic vote. Vegas is a temporary prospect with friend events instead of the still skeletal and dreary casino resort life. Mountains and the weather are just beautiful. I left McCarran yesterday straight out. My friend, I find myself in the same boat. This afternoon at 3 o'clock I am signing paperwork. She departed and deserted our family on our 22nd wedding anniversary almost 2 years ago. I say every word you are using exactly. Simply said, I feel hollow and worn out by the struggle. Hang in there, friend, better things are just waiting for us. One breath at a time, one stride in front of the other, we simply have to be patient and gentle to ourselves. Recall this, we deserve better. Damn, I sense your words suffering. Regards, apologies. Update 2. The last post I produced was seen above the last time I blogged. Right now it's really upsetting me as I'm still kind of disoriented inside. Like me, my ex-wife, crazy to type it out, was off to work. At the same junction, we both stopped. She was turning right to ride on the freeway I had just left off, while I was going to turn left under the overpass. Like metal butterflies ripping up my insides, my heart and stomach sprang with the same familiar, exhilarating and lately terrible sensations. We made eye contact until the light changed, then each drove our separate directions. Both literally and metaphorically, I could not think of a more appropriate comparison for the state of affairs. Still feeling longing, grief, rage, disappointment, nausea, and a rainbow of other depression-inducing emotions, here I am typing out my pain. I wish I could be indifferent for the love of God. I wish I could rip out, root and all this deep-seated affection. Her and her stupidity justifies nothing. Though it's exactly what I want not to feel, is still in love with her. Her scent, her warmth, the sensation of her hair brushing against my face and mixing with my beard, the feel of her soft skin against my bare chest, the rhythm of her heart against my arms when I held her in the dark, these are the sweetest dreams I have of her. Recently they have been most vivid. She left such an effect on me when it was so darn simple for her to demolish everything we had created together. Yes, I understand it is past. Indeed, I understand the sensation might never go away. Indeed, I understand that processing trauma will take time. I am tired of processing though, of feeling the hurt, of sobbing, of reminding myself that it is okay to not be okay. I miss experiencing even-keeled. Every day seems like I'm standing on a platform precariously atop a damned barrel. Some days it's all good. I got this, balance can be kept. I've been doing it for 8 months, therefore I should be used to this. Other days though, I feel as though the agony of betrayal never lets me find even a tiny respite. I trip off the platform since right now equilibrium is useless. We can rather clearly tell the kind of day this one is. Usually, it becomes worse before it improves. I despise platitudes. Update 3, made the 3-week mark, the final post above. I watched our son's middle school soccer game yesterday and was so happy to see him. How much he has changed and how big he is. He's so darn tall, his voice is cracking, and it's weird not to have personally seen it. Feeling like I was being watched from the bleachers, I didn't see my ex-wife until practically half hour. I turned and our gazes met squarely. Her parents were seated with her. They lost the game, sadly, but the team rocked it still. I waited for the squad to pass over the bleachers as people filed off them. I nodded, using their first names, but her parents passed past if I hadn't uttered a word. I laughed and let the throng pass. Not over the phone or via text, it was great to hug my kid and chat with him personally when I waited for him at the team exit. The thrill of seeing each other once more permeated every moment. At last, my ex came up to tell our son loving words. Since I depend on her for those specifics, I asked her when the next game is scheduled. Our chat was clinical. We know we're not decent and most certainly aren't buddies. After instructing her not to sit next to me at the last game, I made that plain. "Let's go," she tells our son, and he gives me a long embrace. "I love him," I tell him. Though difficult, I do let go. I turn and go in the other way from my car, not looking at her or bidding farewell. The one I listened to and loved for almost a decade wants to run over and grab her, kiss those lips, hug her body in my arms, and feel her warmth and heartbeat, the one I feel slightly betrayed by my heart because of. I have to aggressively control it. Not until I come home and sit in silence to reflect on everything will there be tears. Even then though, they are few. I'm still figuring out these emotions. I still experienced additional wonderful dreams of hers till this morning. Once more, I feel as if I am fighting my own body and my own thoughts. I'm doing everything I can. I work out practically every day and eat clean with perhaps 1 or 2 cheat meals a week. I have poured myself into the business of my brother and find it to be flourishing. To be very honest, we never had this many staff members. It's fantastic. I am studying about stocks and investing, reading more, and certifying myself for IT jobs. Most of all, Jack, my corgi, is my other little kid and always wants to play. Filling the emptiness is odd. It certainly seems like a vast gaping void inside me. Being a father and a husband was great fun. As Hurricane Harvey approached Texas, we nearly decided to have another kid. In our house we were safe, dry, and not at all impacted. Though by November we knew she was pregnant, there were plenty of fun, crazy, and somewhat exotic events. Money, space, and our present circumstances finally led us both to agree that we should stop the pregnancy and not have another kid. I wonder if things would be different, whether we would be at this place now, and if she would have **** at another person. This has started me thinking back. Yes, I know the what if game is never a nice place to be, never a good thing to linger on, but lately it's just been emerging more and more in my mind, let alone the dreams, like I had last night of my beautiful wife and what could have been our little girl or our second little boy. It makes me miss my son even more, and it irritates me that she would not let me adopt him. She said that I could only after all this garbage had transpired. I apologize for the protracted post. I simply find myself repeating and ranting last night in my head. It hasn't even been a year since she broke off our relationship. I know it's still early and quite fresh following the divorce. I suppose all I can say is that today I'm not feeling it. It's almost 10 a.m. I haven't gotten out of bed. That she still affects me and how I feel every time I see her bothers me. Update 4. Hey everyone. At last I have developed an apathetic attitude. Other than that I'm feeling happier more consistently, I'm not really sure what to say. Right now I'm working out on a schedule. Cooking more, and experimenting. I have been picking up writing once more and presently work on a short story. To see the Phoenix Suns defeat the Nuggets I flew to Denver. I'm about to head to Oregon to visit a cousin, do some hiking, and try tubing in a new place. Though, my bond with my son is different. I got in touch, he seems really busy. Though man, this is what it feels like to have a full-on teenage son. I'm doing my best to be understanding. Lunch and meals here and there, I suppose I will grab what I can. Simply said, I miss being with him consistently. I now go on dates with someone. She manages her own companies, is just fantastic, independent, intelligent, strong, mature, runs slow here. She is aware of my circumstances and both of us are cautious not to leap in too quickly. Still, it's amazing. Our interests are somewhat similar, we have easy communication and our goals are rather apparent. Even now, when we are simply lounging about, it is just calm. I am attempting to keep myself from developing any negative habits or tendencies. Simply said, it is fantastic to feel good once more. She asked yesterday, what will happen if, and when another man gets involved with my son? To be honest, I'm not sure. If he doesn't reach out, then it's just me having to sit back and hope for the best for him. I will be there for him is all I dare think or say. In this I have no legal clout or rights. Fortunately, I have seen her face to her face and I truly don't feel anything for my ex. Though I'm trying to take it day by day and hope I keep recovering and finding happiness more and more, whatever that means, that my son and I can have a better relationship and that I not muck this up with this amazing woman. I appreciate your support, counsel, book recommendations and encouragement all around. That was therefore fleeting, tragically. The incredible woman was disturbed by my April divorce and feels that I'm not over her since I call our son asterisk our son asterisk. I just mention him in reference to co-parenting and the fact that I have to go through her for anything pertaining to him. I have a son. She's also saying she still has to recuperate from a breakup she went through 3 months ago with a guy she loved. I could see the healing, but I couldn't picture involving someone new with my son at this age. November is his 14th birthday, and it's *****ing strange when others tell me what I feel and get wrong. She also objects to being a stepmother. I never even brought up her young 4-year-old daughter. Once more, I am living that part of my life apart from this present one. Why is this troubling to me? Though in my past relationship I did nothing illegal, I feel like I'm marked. It's held against me after being honest with each other and such, just because I'm divorced and have a much older son who would most certainly never be part of the relationship. Feels quite unjust. If I tell people straight up about my circumstances, I'm accused of not being over my ex. I'm not being real about things if I hold that back and say nothing. Update 5. Some have wondered how this all started and how I got up where I am today, hence I attempted publishing this earlier as an explanation of what went down when things initially started. Though recent, this began in July of last year. Far from all this, I am appreciative of all the guidance, encouragement and kicks in the *** from those who have gone through it and are helping. Alright, so far as things stand, July 2020 started as if everything was going downward. June turned out fantastic. Together with our son and his friend, we had taken a brief trip. We had fun together and the intimacy was amazing. They hung out. July arrived and we were having problems, spats over dumb small things. She showed no desire in closeness. Her day would be of interest to me, but she exhibited no curiosity about me. Long bathroom stays and baths all the damn time, yet she wanted to gripe about not spending time with us. July passed like this. August started to get more tense. She even tried to present me with lingerie and stated it would be for my birthday, like if everything was normal. My birthday arrives, she gets me several LPs but nothing particularly noteworthy. I had a tough day at work. She did too apparently, and we ended up cooking and hanging around together. I reasoned, it's a work day and it's whatever. She seems not truly present but delivers intimacy. We had several major arguments in September at last, one of which she begged to have some alone time. Though this was suspicious, I became insane as I felt our marriage was falling apart. As correct as me. Taking the dogs, I headed to spend the evening with my brother and his family. I returned home early in the afternoon the following day. I never stopped her from hanging out with her friends. She had mentioned she wanted to go before I arrived. I arrived home at about 12 o'clock. At 6 or 7 she arrived home. Happy to see her, I told her when I saw her. She said the month was awful and that week was especially so. She was unpleasant, snarky, straightforward nasty, not kissing me. I kept urging her to tell me what was going on. I wanted us to be fine. I sensed things were off. Now a quite good friend, an acquaintance, expressed concern after seeing me at work. I told him I loved my wife very much. We had been married for 1.5 at this point and had been together for 8.5 years, yet I had no idea what to do. He advised marriage therapy and advised reading *The 5 Love Languages * and another book I cannot remember right now. After reading the book right away I knew I had been giving work too much top priority. Our company is owned by my brother and me. Since COVID, we have been overrun as business has been flourishing. I never stopped trying to love her or be close, both physically and in talks, though even then. She had vanished though. I got home that same day and she was unwell. I looked after hers. As she was getting dressed the next morning, I gently and affectionately requested whether we might talk before she left. Having read the book all night before, I told her everything I had discovered. Although I said I had been lazy, I loved her and advised us to visit marriage counseling to try to mend things because we had our son and loved one another. She broke down crying and kept repeating I was going to hate her, hence anything I said must have set off her. She finally acknowledged that she had cheated on me last weekend when she was with her friends after being urged to be straight up with me. Though I was stunned and totally blown away, I loved my son, marriage and wife. Like a fool, I assured her everything was good, I could forgive her, but she had to come clean on everything. She then clammed up. No names, no information. Basically, she had been having an emotional affair until that day in September and had been chatting to the other man since July. How could I find her credible? I did not. I told her she had parodied our marriage and our vows. It was Thursday. She rejected and offered very little justification when I tried to have a conversation with her that evening. She said she had told the other guy she had confessed to me, but she never consented to discuss things. Friday comes around the same way. I'm dry heaving, haven't slept, feel eerie, furious, and damaged within. When Saturday finally arrived, my brother advised me to go home and go out what was happening after seeing the damage I was causing. She got up, started working out, and I stayed a mess all the while. I phoned my father, who had been the cheater in his marriage, but my mother and he sorted things out. Their marriage has been wonderful for 38 years now. I asked him for his opinion. He said, she understood exactly what she was doing. It's not a mistake. She has to decide. If she doesn't, that tells you all you need to know. Though a wreck, I got myself together. I made sure our son was looked after and tidied the house. I then descended to our apartment gym and instructed her to come see me after she finished. She showed up half an hour later, and I gently reminded her that she had to decide between our family and marriage or the other guy. All I got was, I don't know, and she requested for some time. I agreed on the stipulation that she not see or contact him. She agreed and headed for a 2-hour run. On an app, I could see her whereabouts. She returned, at last saw I had cleaned the place and started to cry. What she had decided, I asked her. Once more it was a profusion of I don't know. She muttered, it's over, at last as I pushed her. Okay, I answered. I grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed some clothes inside, and she started crying since I was truly leaving. I was crying too. My son is distracted with computer games, so he's good when I kiss him and tell him I'm going to spend a short time at his uncle's. I bail. I tell her I'll be back in the morning for my stuff. When I arrive at about 6 a.m. the next morning, I take trash bags right away and head straight into our bedroom, bathroom and closet to begin packing everything I own into them. Tears flowing, she sits up in bed staring at me. She probes me about what I'm doing and I tell her she made her choice. She begins to wail. Though it breaks my heart, my wife is also wanted once more. Like a fool, I lie in bed with her, embrace her and kiss her for half an hour. She has to come clean. I assure her it doesn't have to be this way. Silence. Furious, I yelled at her that all of this was useless. I pack and inform her my father and brother are at a cafe 5 minutes away, waiting for my call to assist with the heavy stuff. It is 11 a.m. by now, and I have bagged everything. She wants us to tell our son what? We go wake him and give him a farce of an explanation for poor communication. She says she would rather not see my family. She is embarrassed, hence I do not blame her. She brings our son shopping, and I can tell he's a little disoriented and bewildered. My dad and brother answer when I call. We took my 3 TVs and all the gadgets I had acquired to make our house smart. Naturally, I left my son all his great stuff. I love him and none of this is his fault. She texts me not to go and to wait for her and our son before I head off. I'm waiting. She finds the place looking as though it had been looted. She advises me not to go and notes that our son, enraged, knocked over a display and expressed desire we could still be a family. I give her a look that says nothing nice, and then I tell her naturally he does. I want to, but what the devil is she looking for? Once more with the I have no idea. I say remaining is pointless for me. She should notify her parents as, should they discover it from our kid, they would be enraged. The first week of October arrives next week. I attempt to keep our son on a routine. Some mornings I have to be at work early, so I show up for him, drive him to school, and make breakfast. On other mornings I take him to see his grandparents. I load everything on her parents when they inquire about what's going on. She is sticking to her foolishness even though I tell them we should mend things. I'm not clear. Having learned to love and respect one another, her dad is angry and depressed for me. She is texting me about how she hates herself and finds it hard to believe she accomplished all this. She is still chatting to the other man all through. She even inquires as to if we may get back together. I tell her she knows what she has to do if she wants me back. During the week, I pick up my son after practice and head home. I love him, thus I consent when he wants to show me something. We spent 1 hour in his room. She's a wreck when I walk out to the living room. She approaches me closely and wants me to sit down with her, encircling me with arms. I almost give in, but I get up and tell her I'm not doing this if she's still chatting to or involved with this man. She claims she cut it off, hence I sit down and hug her. We even gently kiss and I touch her. The phone then rings, a new ringtone, and I know she is panicking inside. From her end he has been phoning all day. I ask her to show me she stopped it and stare her in the eyes. She starts to cry and objects. She understands what she has to do if she wants me. I remind her once more. I'm still returning throughout the week to pick up my son from school and even cooking meals to store in the refrigerator. She is not doing laundry. I have to push myself not to do it for her. But I find my son smells from not washing and his blankets are dirty. Her neglect of him calls for me to chastise her. Her friends wanted to take her to the Renaissance Fair that weekend, and I find it amazing how she is acting as if everything is good. She asks whether I might spend a few hours watching our son. I want time with him, therefore I say yes, but even I know I'm not really ready for that. I agree otherwise as well. 4 additional lads walk out and get in my car when I show up after work to fetch him up from his friend's house, probably a sleepover. Not at him, but at her, I am enraged. She understands from my call that I would be leaving should she not return. She is behaving all piffy about it and it takes 3 hours to return. She has the arrogance to argue that spending her birthday with pals shouldn't cause her guilt. She took advantage, and this is never going to happen again. She should feel horrible given all that is going on. Weeping, she asks, "What, am I only supposed to be a mother?" I don't say anything about that either, but god damn it, yes, you picked this before I even entered the scene. We chat a little longer, and she even invites me to stay, to sleep in the same bed and be close. I turn it down and head off. My son strikes me as depressed. Even though it's taxing both financially and emotionally, I keep seeing him since now I'm just 45 minutes away. Her parents just know what I have told them since she is avoiding them too. This is October 25th, the birthday of my ex. Things have been strange. I am shamefully performing the pick-me dance. Monday here, and I'm sending nice video greetings, but she seems apathetic about it. I start with a little present, working my way up, then I go in the morning to look after our son, drive him to school, and then I do what I always do on her birthday week. I cleaned off a picture of the 3 of us at a pumpkin patch when we first got acquainted. It's a lovely image. I developed this itching inside me just before leaving. Though I had no idea what set off me, I started looking about. Opening a fresh shoebox, I discovered a new vibrator, a new dildo, and new butt plugs within. When I left, I had tossed every toy we owned. She preserved the container as well, and the postmarks date the day I left. Even a gift note including the man's name. Then I found a note tucked within the shoebox. It came from a woman, but her last name matched that of the AP's other gift note. Opening it, I came upon a picture of a family. 2 small boys, a baby, a dog, a guy and a lady. Along with it was a letter informing my ex that she might retain AP but had wrecked her marriage. The woman clarified that she had learned about him from the toys he had sent. I snapped pictures and went right to her parents to show what I had discovered. Get a lawyer, get all my ducks in a row, and then file, her dad advised me, same counsel many of you had given me. That same day I did that. When it arrived a few days later, I handed her the paperwork. We sat on it for months. We attended soccer matches, had a few private evenings, but I wouldn't dare sleep with her even though the chance presented itself. At one soccer game, she eventually observed that I wasn't really at my best. I prodded till she said she was seeing someone. That following week, I turned in every file. We seem caught up right now. Update 6. I returned to the same vacation location I visited last summer in order to snowboard. Just me out here, this was my first true adventure. All wholly mine. I never made the trip to serve as a kind of diversion or anything else. I visited the slopes 10 years ago and performed rather well. I can't describe how emotionally satisfying it is to be without the drag of my ex-wife, who hated everything outdoors, let alone snow or cold. Snowboarding has always made me happy. I was thumbing my ring finger trying to spin the long-gone ring as I strolled throughout the city. Though we had been separated almost 2 years ago, seeing couples engage in Valentine's Day activities somewhat weighs on my heart. It's strange. I suppose I miss having the ring there, especially what the ring ought to have symbolized. Ultimately, though with my ex, it was only a lump of metal and a false promise. I guess I'm simply reflecting, but I can't describe how quite dreamy this has been. After hurting so terribly, the happiness, enthusiasm, laughing and foolishness that have permeated my life seem amazing. Hell, I'm sore and in pain beyond what I can recall from the last time I went snowboarding, but this ache is one I have totally missed. For those of you who are struggling, however, cliched as it seems, it does indeed get better with time. Spend some time grieving and hurting, then go forward. Improve yourself for yourself. I appreciate everyone being there and listening. Update 7. The divorce occurred 2 years ago. This is the month the divorce was finalized. As the title suggests, the dreams are resurfacing. Strange seems to be the situation. Dreaming, we find ourselves at a house I have never seen before. She begs me to accompany her upstairs. We both are nude. We arrive upstairs to what looks to be our room, and she looks me up and down, giving me that smile I remember and liked, then says, "Hi." I have nowhere to start. She walks up, puts her hands in mine, and all I can say back is, "Hi." She presses her body into mine and I encircle her in my arms. Her beautiful skin and warmth really speak to me. She smells her shampoo even now. Actually, I'm pleased my dog woke me up seconds later. This is my second dream for this month. Not since last November, not seen my ex in months. Emotion such things is strange. More of a what the heck kind of emotion. One reason all of this is happening could be my recent house building on my own. I guess I'm just sort of airing out my mind. Today feels odd. My warmest wishes go out to those of you hurting. Update 8. I met with my son yesterday in great anticipation. Since his last birthday, I had not heard anything significant from him. It has been killing me. Again though, I understand how teenagers behave and I'm sure he has a lot on his plate with his middle school to high school change. His mother's obnoxious boyfriend is also a factor. To be honest, when he at last picked up the phone, I got rather happy. Our chat was nice. It took a moment of me telling him what I'd been up to, building a house, our corgi getting older, and as always, our love of video games, to pull him out of his shell. High ranking in Rocket League, he has been invited to a competition including pros scheduled for Twitch broadcast. I really am thrilled for him. We should keep chatting. He promises to email me the link. From his now totally different voice, I take it as a little triumph that he still thinks of me as dad. I am flattered and happy. My heart started feeling it once more a few hours after our afterglow conversation. It was more of a dull ache, just aching deep down within me. It hurt and bothered me enough to cause me to hardly sleep last night. Seeing my attitude, my father asked what was bothering me. I first found it difficult to actually put it into words, but the second time he asked, it came naturally. The weight and suffering still exist even if I'm completely happy when I have my son and can still be a part of his life in any manner he chooses. It's enough to keep my head spinning over why. At this point, I realize the cause has no bearing on anything or would provide comfort. Everything is done and accomplished, however even 2 years down the road it is still fresh and painful. My pride in being my son's dad and my emotions of love and admiration for him are so entwined with the love I had for my ex, which now simply acts as a painful reminder every time I see him. Though I can't say I know what you're feeling, coming from this side of your situation, you may need to ask yourself if the pain and suffering are worth it for your mental health and general well-being. My father, a cheater in his own time but someone who makes amends and keeps on doing so, told me. Though you love him with all your being and the time you spend brings enormous delight, it follows days of rehabilitation for you. I am not advising you to give up on him as, if it were me trying to be there for you, I would never stop. Perhaps you should nonetheless, let go of everything. You gave all you have. I haven't seen you this joyful in a long time. Still, I can see the toll it takes on you. Your emotions divided between your love for your son and the anguish you obviously still have from how you were deceived. I understand he's acting as a father, seeing obvious suffering on my face while his son battles. He would never want it lastingly. Given the lengths of his military training, which trained him to detach himself and view events from several angles, I take it as his attempt to provide wise guidance. He does not intend to just vanish from my son's life, I'm sure. Maybe he only wants me to keep outside of it all. Perhaps he only wants to spare me the suffering still afflicting my heart. Just letting my ideas float about. My best wishes extend to everyone suffering right now. Particularly to those in healing, remain strong and keep cheerful. Comments. OP, your first response and attitude to him calling were exactly perfect. For a teen especially, this is all quite challenging ground to walk. Talk not of his mother, her partner, or their domestic situation. Create an oasis out of yourself and your relationship with your son. Be in his life a non-judging lighthouse. Should the matter come up, avoid pledging yourself to a position. Still keep your distance and objectivity. Find out his short-term bucket list. Perhaps you two might handle a few of those jointly. Luck. I agree absolutely and thank you. Out of our conversations, I make sure to keep any reference to his home situation or anything about his mother away. I concentrate on talking about just him and me and avoid passing opinions. Though it feels like negotiating in the dark, I am trying to assist him with a list. That's the intensity of my affection. I won't give up on him. Thank you for the guidance. I will keep making sure that what we publish is a refuge.